If there's something strange and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Live from across the plain, still struggling through Google Hangouts, comes the coolest guys you've ever met. Oops, wrong show. Comes the guys who may be weird, who may not be mainstream, and who may believe in things many might call crazy. But these guys are after the truth, and sometimes the truth is the craziest thing you've ever heard.
Mr. Mayor, come take a look at this.
Wow. Oh, what is it? Have you ever seen anything like that? Somebody get me the Globebusters.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Globebusters.
And welcome everybody to Globebusters, a few of our favorite proofs. I'm your host, Bob Xanadude60, and believe it or not, guys, this is not a repeat. I'm using the old retro intro that we used for several years ago, kind of in honor of a guest that we're having today. But no, this is definitely not a repeat. We are live, and it is the 7th of March on 2021. So, excellent. Well, it's been a week or so since I put on a show, but hopefully you guys are happy with some of the retros that we put on. I decided, if nothing else, it's good to have at least a retro show there. People really like to hear that. So, and we will be definitely making an uptick in the frequency of the shows. In fact, I'm going to be splitting the shows over 2 days a week and doing a little bit different format on each of them. So that's kind of what I've got in mind for that. And that's all going to come about pretty much right after the solar return event, which occurs at the end of March. I think it's the 27th. Yeah, right here. Yeah, the 26th and 27th of March. So hopefully we will see everybody at that. If you have not gotten your tickets for it yet, you will want to run to flatearthfestivals.com. And you can go there and you can get on the mailing list and you can see all the people that we've got that are coming to it. I've got Chief Crow, Flat Earth and the Chief Crow and the Flat Earthworms, Jason Lindgren, Media Bear, and more. And let's see. Okay. And sorry, I'm just looking at, I'll let you guys in just a second, guys. Kyle got disconnected. Anyway, so, and again, it's going to be at the Greenville Shrine Event Center that we had it at last year, and we had well over 400 people. There will be no masks required, and of course, South Carolina has never had a mandatory mask requirement, which is kind of cool. But there's definitely no mask requirement here, and so we will all be maskless at the event, which would be pretty cool. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to our panel. First up, we have Jeran from Jeranism. How are you doing today, Jeran?
Doing fantastic, Bob. Yourself?
Doing just hunky-dory. It's a beautiful day in South Carolina today.
Awesome. Yeah, pretty nice here. Hope everybody's doing well. Glad you're all here. I'm facing the other direction today, so I'm actually a little bit out of sorts. I'm also looking, Bob, at 3 monitors for the first time ever. So I'm
you got it hooked up. Excellent. So that worked for you, huh?
Yep. And enough people got mad at my background for all my Thursday shows, so I finally am redoing the office here and spun everything in the other direction. So more on that in the future, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah, you get so spoiled. I've got, of course, my 4 monitors here. I've got the 3 across my desk and then the one up above on the wall. And I'll tell you, you just get so spoiled on it. It's unbelievable. I don't know how anybody deals with just one monitor these days.
Yeah, no, I couldn't imagine going from the 2 back to 1, but didn't think I would ever go to 3. And now as soon as I have it, I'm like, oh man, I need this. I'm all about it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Oh, hey, one other thing I wanted to mention, guys, is in addition to Jason, Media Bear, and everybody at the event, we managed to get ODD to make a commitment and come to the solar return. So I had a heart-to-heart talk with him and said, come on, man, you got to come. You're going to love it. And he was really enthusiastic about it, and I think he's looking forward to it. So, yes, ODD will be at the event. So we are psyched completely.
Yeah, and people should, if you didn't watch Thursday's show, we played the video that is on ODD's channel, so people should check that out. That he's going to do a full-length documentary and is looking for people to, support that idea through Patreon, or he gave a bunch of other avenues. But I became a patron, so if people want to add to their list of people they support, I think ODD is an excellent choice. He does probably without comparison some of the best videos for Flat Earth that I've seen.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, so I mean, it actually makes me want to quit making videos when I watch his videos. So
hey, you know what? You're no slouch, Jeran. Don't sell yourself short. You're pretty good at it yourself.
Well, if there's anybody who's out there who deserves the support, and somebody I would personally like to see do this full time, it would be ODD. So if people have an extra $5 a month, I'd throw it Matt's way. Yep,
for sure. So yeah,
or by the way, it's patreon.com/ODDTV, I believe.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll double check that and put it in the show notes afterwards. But yeah, so and Matt also before the event on the 27th, Matt will be coming on an episode of Globebusters, very possibly next week. I'll talk to him about it this week, but he definitely wants to come on the show. He's looking forward to it, and he's looking forward to getting involved with the community again. He's just had so many crazy things going on in the past. Of course, haven't we all? But everybody has their own little bit different story to tell. That's for sure. So, all right. So let's move on to our next panelist. We have the doctor who is in, Rodrigo Ferrari Nunez. How you doing today, Rodrigo?
Doing well, Bob. How's it going? How's it going, Jeran, and everyone else? Everyone in the chat. I see some people that I know. I'm taking a look at the chat for the first time in a while. I see there's some people not very happy that I'm here, but I'm happy to be here, Bob.
Okay. Well, they'll get over it, right?
Yep.
Oh well.
No, it's probably just one guy. But yeah, I see a bunch of people here recognize from also some of my streams. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to watch some of the comments. I mean, we've all had it. People say I'm too egotistical. They say Jeran denies everything. They said Morgile talked too much. They say you interrupt too much. Let's see what else. I mean, everybody's got everybody's got their deal. It's like whatever, dude. So
we're not perfect. Come on.
Yeah.
Not buying that for a second.
So yeah, it just kind of cracks me up. So anyway, all right. So also we have with us today Kyle Adams, and wasn't expecting you on today, but I'm glad you're here, Kyle. Glad to have you on. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fabulous.
Excellent. And you're just turning out those videos, still making really good stuff, and yeah, you and Karina are just doing a fabulous job.
Yeah, this next week we're coming out with our new next lesson in Modern Earth Science Destroyed. Really looking forward to that one. We're talking about satellites.
Awesome. Oh, that'll be fun. Yeah. I think,
one.
I think you put something out. You wanted some commentary on that. I have a lot to say about that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll definitely give you some feedback on that for sure.
Yeah, that's really important for me as I'm trying to do as much team building as I can all along the way. Mm-hmm. And so this next week we're doing this one about Modern Earth Science Destroyed. And then after that, we're going to do one about the top 10 female Flat Earth channels on YouTube.
Oh, awesome.
Because
Well, I know.
this last week we just did a video about our demographics, and we're noticing how we have a really low, like, female viewer demographic, and so we want to try and up that as much as we can, because we know there's a lot of really fabulous female Flat Earth channels out there, and it's not just a male thing. And so we're trying to promote other female channels out there right now.
Yeah, definitely not.
I'm
No,
taking a look at your master map here, Kyle. It's like a monster, eh?
Yeah, my 100 different channels there.
Very nice. Yeah,
yeah, it's cool. So yeah,
in it.
I know Karen B. It's got to be at the top of that list, if not the top.
Actually, it's a one that I've just discovered recently. Her name is Cheyenne, and she does a lot of like Native American music and stuff, which really, I think she's got like 60,000 subscribers.
And she's a flat earther?
She's a flat earther.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
She's got a playlist of different flat earth content. I was like, whoa. So,
well, you'll have to shoot me over that link so I can, post her up and get our audience, because I've never heard of her. But
yeah, it's kind of a big eye opener for me. So yeah, I'll give you a link.
Awesome. Cool. All right. And so let's go ahead and continue on. So this gentleman needs no introduction because he was a Globebuster for several years, and he's been moving around the country and change of venue and just all kinds of different things. Life has been happening, but he is back with us today, and we are thrilled to have him. We have Jon TheMorgile with us. How you doing, Jon?
I am doing just fine. If I could get my microphone to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you just fine.
Good. Okay, great. Yeah, doing well, guys. Glad to be here. And was that Kyle? Was that UAP or am I wrong?
No,
Different
Kyle's a different guy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He sounds like UAP.
I do the Flat Earth Institute of Science videos.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure who I'm talking to. So good to meet you, Kyle. It's the first time I've spoken with you, Rodrigo. I'm glad you're here. I don't care about what everybody else says. I'm glad you're here, and glad to be here.
Yep.
It's good to meet you. I'm always trying to get to know the other major players.
Of course, I mean, Morgile is the one person I'd never talked to, and the one that I listen to a lot. And he's an OG of Flat Earth, right? He's right there in the very beginning.
Oh yeah, definitely
part of Globebusters.
His name has that ring.
Yeah, no, he's well. I mean, if you look at the early Globebusters shows, when I was watching it, he was always there, right?
Yep, yeah. He was. He came along a long time ago. Right towards the very end, right shortly after I think TJ left, and then we had Jon come on, and we went for several years with Jon, and then Kurt came on, and we've definitely had our staff changes, but every one of the Globebusters has been fantastic, and Jon is definitely an OG of Flat Earth for sure, and he. I was listening. I listened a lot to the Globebusters 24/7 channel. And by the way, guys, if you are not aware of that, we do have a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week channel on Globebusters 2, and it's called the Globebusters 24/7 Flat Earth, in which I have running some of the best Flat Earth videos that I have collected over the last 6 years, and a lot of cuts from some of the best Globebusters episodes, that we've ever done. And Jon is of course in a lot of those, and it's just amazing, how much information Jon has brought to the table. And I was thrilled when we finally got in touch again, especially when you showed up in the chat last week. I was thrilled to see you, and it's like awesome. We'll see if we can get him back on the show. And a lot of people were saying, "Where's Jon?" He's definitely missed, and so everybody's really happy to see you, I'm sure, Jon.
Oh yeah, anytime, and I guess I could say I'm living proof. Dinosaurs do exist, so there you have it.
Yep, there you have it. So anyway, so if you're not familiar with the Globebusters 2 24/7 channel, you might want to check it out, and you can hear a lot of our old stuff that had Jon in it. And of course, I do add new stuff to it all the time, and just trying to keep that up and running. So I think it's really, really worthwhile. And it's amazing. People listen to it constantly. They go to sleep listening to it. There's 54 people watching it right now, but it sometimes gets up to 100, 125 people, not a whole lot, but the people are very dedicated and listening to it. So it's a great little channel. I like it. So excellent. All right, so we will punt away from that. And so, Jon, tell us a little bit about what you have been doing. I know you've made several videos and starting to make a lot of things, and you've done some readings of books and stuff. But what's going on in the Morgile's life?
Well, not much. I just moved into a new place after, essentially living in a hotel for the best part of a year. I'm in Kansas, the state of Kansas, with Dorothy and Toto and all those guys, Auntie M and all those guys. and we just moved into a house this week, but we may end up having to move again this month because, well, when they came to turn the water on, it was spraying out all in the basement. So they turned it off. And, going down there to inspect, there's black mold and such down there. And so, the thing about black mold is it's pretty toxic stuff and it's very hard to get rid of. And, it's a rental house too. So it's not like I own the place. But, with Mina already has COPD and everything, and it's just not, it's not something that you want to mess with. So we really like the place, and it's, really nice little house within our rental budget and everything. But with the black mold, we may end up having to move again soon. But so there's that. And yeah, I've still been putting up videos periodically, and I've got a couple that I'm working on now. But yeah, just take a look at the Morgile channel and you'll see the work I've been up to lately. Just still cracking away at it, man. It's something that I don't think you can ever really turn your back on flat Earth. Although I have also been sort of branching out into applying that same spirit of discernment into other arenas, right? Because I think that's such an important thing with flat Earth. It sort of awakens a part of us that doesn't just accept answers that are given to us by textbooks or accept answers that are given to us by experts. And it's sort of, we become the authority on what is true and what is correct when you become a flat earther. And it's an important change that you really can't deny. It's a big change that once you realize flat Earth, it's like you start applying that sort of spirit of discernment and being your own authority on truth. And you start to find that, well, there's all sorts of areas in life and history and science and religion that are just begging to be cracked open with a new set of eyes. And, I just think it's a beautiful thing, and nobody can ever take that away from us. So, there you have it.
All right.
Yeah. I'm always saying that whole new set of eyes thing, and that's part of my intro for Modern Earth Science Destroyed. And I totally agree with you. It's like the moment you're given this new set of eyes, you see the Earth for what it is, and then after it's like, wow, what else can I see here? And that's exactly what you're describing there. What else can I see here?
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
So much more than just the Earth that you're able to see with this new set of eyes. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and isn't it funny, that the irony behind all of it, and of course the Globers will never get this because they think we're all insane, but, here we are, we're the people that are basically, saying the seemingly most insane things, and we know we're correct about it. We know what's actually happening, and it's just interesting that the truth lands in our hands, and how the world has been structured to, automatically discard anything that people like us say, right? So, they knew what they were planning and getting into and what was coming up. So as always, they've done a beautiful job in doing whatever they could do to shut us down and shut down the truth movement in general. But I don't think it can ever be stopped. There's too many of us, and it just keeps going and going and going. And, some of the things that really amaze me is how much we actually get censored on our numbers. Something that, gosh, who was it that told me this? I think it was Zach's video. Zach, Good Times for All, when he did the electrostatic gravitational video, the last one that he just did. I think David, he had something like 3,000 or 5,000 total views on it at the time, and David told him that he had like well over 50,000 clicks on the Flat Earth app, which it's like, oh my God, that tells you, right there how much we're being incredibly censored, because obviously they can't hide, those kind of statistics, from what Dave gets off his app page. So it is what it is. So there you have it.
it's really visible when you just look at our own analytics about how much actually comes from Google and YouTube versus how much come from channel pages and how much comes from all these other things. We just talked about that last week in our demographics video. It's so apparent that just the censorship that's going on.
Yeah, it is. It is just completely off the hook. But there's still a lot of really weird things going on. How is Kansas as far as COVID? Are they like mask Nazis there, or what's going on in Kansas, John?
It kind of is like if you're going to ride the city bus somewhere, you have to wear a mask. Like they're very adamant about that. The taxi cabs are the same thing. The grocery stores, I guess it depends on the store, but some grocery stores, you can walk in, and of course they have the signs posted. I think there's some sort of city ordinances or laws or whatever about that. But like some people won't let you ring up and check out if you don't have the mask, whereas others, they don't care. But yeah, I mean, I guess Kansas is I've only been in Kansas for the entirety of the thing. And so I don't have anything to really compare it to, but it seems like they're, I don't know, I guess somewhere in the middle, maybe leaning towards masked police, but yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, fortunately, like I said, South Carolina has not really pushed it too hard. And if what I hear is correct, was it Newsom, because of the fact they're threatening to impeach him? Is he now opening up California, Jeran, or what's going on with him? Oh, Jeran.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Not that I've heard, but I know he's not lifted the mask mandate or anything like that. But yeah, he is under some pressure. They got finally enough signatures on the recall Gavin Newsom petition. So, but I have not heard that he's reopening things fully.
Oh, okay, because I did see a post on, from I think it was Texas's governor, right? Because he's coming under a huge fire, and he basically said, "Well, I'm opening up the entire state again." And I don't know if that's true. Maybe anybody in Texas can verify that for us. But he said that he's basically kind of repealed the mask law and opened the state up again, which would be great.
So yeah, according to, I just looked it up, and Newsom wants Californians to wear 2 masks. So right now I don't think
Jesus.
First article I see.
Why not 3 or 5?
Oh, that's what I do. I triple whatever they say. I triple it for safety. So I'm gonna go. I only have 5, so I need 1 more. I got to get 6. Then I'll be good.
I'm going to get a COVID mask for Halloween next year.
Oh, that's great. Hopefully I don't find you all over the side of the road and in the gutter like I see most masks.
Yeah, no kidding. So anyway, Austin should be in here shortly. I think he said they were headed somewhere in the bus so that he could get to a solid Wi-Fi connection. I think he's going to join us from there, so that'll be cool that he joined us. I'm not sure what's going on with the Clown World Tour, but we've seen, I know that they've been going through Florida. They've been through, lots of places in Florida. I'll be surprised if they ever leave that place, but it looks so beautiful down there. So I know they've been having a good time down there, but they have a lot of ground to cover. And I think they spent the last, 3 weeks at least in Florida. So yeah, they definitely need to move forward, I think. So, all right, cool. All right, now, so what I wanted to do today, guys, is, I have a few things that, I wanted to talk about and stuff, but Taboo Conspiracy came out with a video, I don't know, a couple months ago, and it was called Nature's Flat Earth Schemes. Wow, I guess it was 5 months ago, November 5th, they put it out. And, it was just shortly after he got his second channel, Taboo Conspiracy 2, shut down again for no reason, no warning, no nothing. They just shut him down. And so he kind of came out with a tongue-in-cheek kind of a, reverse psychology type thing, saying, okay, well, maybe I should, kind of act like a baller and point out some of the things that the flat earthers have done, that us ballers can thank them for, Anyway, it's very much tongue-in-cheek, very much kind of sarcastic, but he raises like 20 or so really, really good points in here. And so I kind of want to go through, some of those, because I think that, the things he does talk about, obviously we all know that they're true. I think that I think we can elaborate a little bit on it. But it really is amazing. And I've said this a million times, we've got this preponderance of evidence that just keeps building and building and building. And when you start looking at the so-called, globe evidence, there really isn't any. There really isn't.
That's right. It's so well picked out and paced, this video. I just watched it in a single run, just like wow, and was laughing at some of the things, of course. But yeah, such a great selection of information, put in well put as well. I like that kind of style because it's pretty obvious how he feels, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a flat earther, true blue. Ben always will be. So, I love his stuff and just the way that he addresses it. And so this is a really good one. But like I said, we have got all the proof. We've got this enormous preponderance of evidence, and now the Globers. I mean, some of the most ridiculous things that they do. I don't know how much you've kept up with the the scene, John, but it now turns out that the Globers are completely denying that there even is a geometric Earth curve, right? They're saying, oh, it's not even there because everything is apparent. So now they're now agreeing with what the flat earthers have been saying for years about, the horizon is an apparent position. That's it. There is no geometric. And now because of the fact of, the black swan argument and several others, they're just saying, oh, well, no, that doesn't exist. You can't see it, which is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard in my life. To listen to these mainstream globe proponents literally turn around and deny that it's even there, absolutely deny that it's even there, is beyond belief. And it gets comedic. It really does.
Well, I know that if you're going to use the curvature formula, one of the most important things for that is to establish where the horizon should be, assuming a ball Earth, right? And that's all based on your altitude. And so there's that. I mean, that would be a geometric thing that it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the higher up you are, the more distant the horizon should be. And it's it's pretty simple. Like if you're 6 feet tall, then the horizon, assuming a ball Earth, the horizon should be about 3 miles away. And then, if you double that, the horizon distance doesn't exactly double, but it increases. And so that you have that. So what exactly are they denying those? I'm not sure I 100% follow.
Well, they're denying obviously what you just said. Essentially, it's like if we're on a globe, the geometry tells us straight up, and we have an observation height of 6 feet. Well, then the geometry tells us point blank that the horizon, the so-called horizon, where the sky meets the ground, literally must be 3 miles away, right? And of course, we've never seen that ever. And whenever we do see it, they're more than happy to claim that, well, that's the Earth curvature that's blocking, whatever you're trying to see behind it. But when you don't see it, they will sit there and tell you that, well, that's because it's not there and you can't see it. When in fact, their model absolutely demands that it must be there. It's a physical absolute that is required for them to even make any of their model work, any of it. So that's why it's just unbelievable that they will sit there and deny it all. But we'll cover it a little bit more. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
So, all right, cool. So, all right. So I guess let's see if I want to cover anything else. Actually, there's one other thing before I start this. I want to look at this, and this is a hat tip to Effed Up World here. And he put this out, and I just thought it was interesting, not so much because it was of the very first spacewalk by Ed, what's his name, whatever the first astronaut was that did it, but
White.
Ed White, that's right. But notice what he has in his hand here, guys. And I saw that and I perked up. I'm like, what is that thing? And so that's basically his little
spray, right? Your little spray of gas to make him move around.
Yeah, that is his analog. And I've cracked jokes about this before.
Oh, he doesn't get a sword?
No, he doesn't get a sword.
Only the Russians. Only the Russians get the sword.
Yeah. So basically what these are is they're like a little O2 tank, and I think there's something else. But essentially what it does is it sprays gas out, right? Pressurized gas. And of course, this is directly analogous to the ridiculousness we saw in the movie Gravity, right? Where after the shuttle got devastated and all that, they were floating around in space and using fire extinguishers to propel themselves around, right? And it's so unbelievable because, you know, they completely disavowed that, and they said, well, no, yeah, that's ridiculous because, you know, the whole argument is that you cannot discharge something into free space because then you have a condition called free expansion of gas. And when you have a free expansion of gas argument, then no work is being done. Therefore, if no work is being done, you cannot propel yourself through space in any way, shape, or form. Now, with rockets, they're telling us that essentially what they're doing now is they are putting out a high-speed stream of gas, and the mass from that gas alone, they're saying that they can build up enough pressure, back pressure against it, that they can actually propel themselves off of it, which, of course, is a complete lie and utter nonsense because, again, you've got the entire, you know, space at 10 to the negative 17th torr, which will dissipate anything, free expansion instantaneously. So the idea that you could have any type of little portable unit in operation is ridiculous. And of course, they call these things astronaut propulsion units, APUs.
But don't you know how they have nebula and dust in space? Don't you know that they have that? And it looks just like smoke in a studio being lit from different angles.
Yeah,
the canister puts gas in motion, and then you've got to try and bounce gas off the gas that's already in motion, which means you have to have this weird acceleration thing going on. You've got to be putting out faster than the gas behind you, which
is impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
the analogy
just barely put in motion because there's got to be something that slows down that gas.
Oh yeah, as Rethink is saying here, they extended the atmosphere beyond the moon. So we forgot that. That's ESA did that. So now they can burn everywhere. They can have combustion anywhere they want.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I guess that's more of a theoretical thing. Like even the atmosphere that they claim goes out to the moon is very like sparse and disparate. But I mean, the analogy that I try to use when you're talking about this with Globers is like, you know, if you're riding around on a jet ski, it works just fine when it's in the water. But if you take the jet ski out of the water, you know, you're just going to burn out the motor. It doesn't work. And so the same thing should apply for any sort of, you know, rocket propulsion, or especially the little propellers or whatever, the Whitsitt containers that the astronauts have attached to their suits. You have to have that back pressure of the ambient atmosphere for that sort of thing to work. And for them to claim that the astronauts use that in a vacuum, to me, is just laughable. And it's just more proof that they really didn't think that far ahead. They never really thought that people were going to question their assertions. They just assumed that people would go on, you know, blindly believing anything that they claim forever. And, well, they were wrong.
Yeah, dramatically wrong. Because, I mean, the bottom line is because you must satisfy Newton's third law. You know, every action must have an equal but opposite reaction. In other words, there must be something to work against to create a propulsion condition. And unless you satisfy that, you're not going to do anything. And, you know, the whole notion of them saying that you are, well, I think their analogy, and we've talked about this before too, is if you take a medicine ball and you sit on your office chair and you push the medicine ball away from you, well, what you're doing is you're expulsing a mass away from you, and it offsets your own mass, and there's then a force that's generated which pushes you backwards. So they're trying to tell you that that's exactly what's happening with the rocket. But the problem with that is that the rocket, again, is when you're burning all this stuff and it's just emptying into space, you know, the 10 to the negative 17 torr space, and you get into a free expansion of gas condition, which can do and does no work, cannot do and does no work. And there you have it. So it's just unbelievable. And of course, we've seen them try and, you know, in fact, when my demonstration last year at Flattoberfest was on rockets, and basically, you know, the demonstrations that they use is they'll try and put like something that puts out a lot of gas inside of a chamber that's been evacuated, but only partially evacuated. And then once they light off the rocket engine or whatever, it fills it up with gas particulates. And then at some point, it actually gives it something to push off of, right? But
That's
by
a really
the time,
good point right there, that, yeah, people
yeah.
don't think about that.
Yeah, and so people are completely fooled by that. And if you could sit there and keep that even a 10 to the negative, I don't know, maybe fifth or 10 to the negative 6 torr vacuum, and sustain that, being able to keep it evacuating constantly, I guarantee you nothing would ever move. It's right there akin with the, like the Mars helicopter, right? They're trying to tell us that they're driving around a helicopter on Mars, and they can't even use a high-speed, really deep pitch fan blade in a vacuum chamber that is, 0.08 of Earth's atmosphere and get it to blow the little fine hairs on a feather. So do they really expect us to believe that they're carrying around a payload of a few kilograms on that helicopter, let alone even lift the helicopter itself? It's just preposterous. So anyway, so I kind of got sidetracked, but anyway, what I wanted to point it out, and this is great. Besides that little thing that I caught onto here, you have to really laugh, and when you're checking out the motion of this guy, right? So he's going to go off on his little journey here. Let me get to it, where he starts taking off.
That's a still picture, right? And now they have the actual animation. Oh wow, yeah. The Ed White stuff is just
Ed White. So here he is, Gemini. Now watch the angles on the Earth. I mean,
when it just goes around. Oh yeah.
Might be Napoleon Dynamite dragging the action figure behind the bus.
Well, and doesn't he at one point like turn his head where the neck is not supposed to move in these suits? The head is supposed to move freely inside of the helmet, and yet they show the neck and the helmet move with his head, which is like, to me, it looks like claymation, like something out of Jason and the Argonauts, but I don't know. What do I know?
Yeah, it is. It is the same animator. I think Ido talks about that. There's this person that won the Academy Awards for clay animation that particular year, and he got hired to do both the Russians and the Americans for the Gemini kind of era. And so the animation from the Russians that they have, whoever it is, Gagarin, whoever it is that they put up, is made in the same manner.
It's probably that guy that did Jason and the Argonauts, like, the famous skeleton army sequence, which was pretty good for the time. And if you go back and look at it now, it looks ridiculous. But yeah, it's probably the same guy, honestly. Like, I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
Yeah, I look at it and I see Gumby and Pokey, that old claymation type of series.
Gumby.
Yeah, that's going back a few. I'm showing my age there. But just pretty interesting. So hat tip to Effed Up World for that. That was a good catch, and it's just comedic. I love looking at some of these old space clips that are just so beyond ridiculous. And again, I know that the fanboys just have to cringe, but they have to support it. They can't say, "Oh, that does look fake." No matter how ridiculous it looks, they have to support it. So yeah. You just gotta love that. So anyway,
it's kind of like the limb, right?
Sorry, I was gonna say if NASA keeps or if they get caught faking space even once, back in the '60s or whatever, then why would they do that? So they have to go along with all of it, don't they?
Just tell lies for the sake of national security. That's probably what they tell them.
Yeah, exactly. It's nuts.
Sparks ingenuity. It sparks creativity in children to tell them they can reach for Jupiter.
Yeah, it's marketing for STEM, right? STEM industry.
Exactly. And they keep saying that that's higher than ever. They're obviously hitting their targets as far as that goes.
They can't shut up about it.
Yeah, no kidding. So anyway, okay, so let's go ahead, I guess, and let's jump into a couple of these. I'll play the first one, and then we'll kind of comment on them one at a time. But we'll hit it up with Taboo's number one here, and this is great. And again, the sarcasm is just magnificent. He does this so well. So here we go. Oh, wait. You know what? It's not going to play the audio. Let's stop the screen share and let's reshare screen, Chrome tab.
I just think about how many people say, "Oh, there's no way they could keep something like that under wraps. There's no way they could keep that all a secret or anything like that." But then you just look at Area 51 and about how much they're able to keep that a secret. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They don't tell you about all the secret government operations. You don't see all that stuff on WikiLeaks or anything like that. You know,
There's this book by Edgar Mitchell, The Way of the Explorer, where he talks about how when he first started, because he was one of the early guys in the starting of the space, all the whole aeronautic, the whole kind of astronomics of it, the orbital mechanics, all this stuff. And he thought it was a joke, he says in his book. And they were laughing about it. They were making money. They were like, we couldn't believe we were making money studying this stuff. And then Gus Grissom got burned. Gus Grissom decided to started speaking too much. Then they crisped him. And then everybody just realized what was the protocol. Like you just play with the rules. And that's been the kind of game. There's been some whistleblowers, but they die. That's the other side of it. You look at the astronaut fact book and look at how many people have been to space, died in kind of, automobile accidents and heart attacks and other. Really...
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah, they always die of these, and of course we know what's going on, but the general public just is incredibly unaware of it, and they're taught, well, these are just crazy conspiracy theories, and they just say, okay, that sounds good to me, and go on living their life, right? And there you have it.
Well, to me, the big tell is the fact that that NASA is part of the U.S. military. I mean, what other form of exploration or science or transportation or whatever you would consider NASA? But there's nothing else like that. Like aviation isn't completely blanket owned by the military, but space is, and that should tell you something. And it's because the military is expert at keeping things chain of command compartmentalized. And so, like with NASA, everything's on a need-to-know basis. And, you've got superior officers who know a little bit more than their inferiors, but as they say, shit rolls downhill, right? And so it really is perfect and it makes a lot of sense why they have it as part of the military. It's because, I would venture to say that most of the people at NASA don't have any idea what's going on at the top, and they don't. And so all it takes is a couple of key people at the top to be in on the deception in order for it to work. So even if 99% of the people at NASA are completely clueless about the deception, that still works because, of course, they're going to say yes, sir, to their superior officer, and they're going to do their job.
Yeah, and that makes it even more correct to call it national security. Right, because if you let that secret out, if you let it out that 99% of the employees at NASA have been fooled, you've got a problem. So all of a sudden, it all becomes national security, and they can protect it with the military. And you just have to tell a little story about sometimes we go over here and sometimes we go over there. And again, we talked about it. It's ridiculous. Anybody would believe that Elon Musk is, having a tough time getting a little craft to go 5 miles in the air and come back down and land. Yet 60 years ago, we put people on the moon. And they landed and got out and had a lot of fun. It's just ridiculous that anybody is following the story and not seeing the obvious deception.
We told a lie a long time ago, and now we just got to keep that ball rolling and get it bigger and bigger, because if they find out, there's going to be a national, crisis, and everyone's going to go crazy, not trusting the government. All that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
for good reason, right?
Yeah, for good reason. That's why.
Chaos.
But you look at the recent spacewalks, and it gets worse and worse. It's like back in the 90s or something. I don't know. I was surprised.
Doesn't seem like they try anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like, that's got to be another reason why the lunar lander has got to be one of the biggest embarrassments that they can be confronted with. I mean, that thing is an utter joke, and even to hear the clips that we played about the astronauts saying, oh, you have to be really careful because you could put your hand right through the foil. Right. And this is supposed to maintain a 14.7 PSI environment, in a 10 to the negative 17. And you can actually your butt will poke right through it. You have to be very careful. It's just unbelievable.
Well, but it's Reynolds wrap. It's not the generic stuff. It's the name brand. So they're good.
Well, it's got a little gold in it, too. It's got gold. So it's not normal foil. It's not the foil you use. It's gold foil, special foil.
Yep. All right. So, okay, let's go ahead and hit number one here. Take it away, Ben.
Discovery number 1, the horizon's metamorphosis. We globe earthers have had it wrong for thousands of years. There is no geometric horizon. And those crazy flat earthers were the only ones to figure it out. What is a horizon? It's actually a good question. Well, we globe supporters used to think that it was the point of the geometric Earth that began obstructing distant objects, like in this diagram, or in other words, the physical, visible, tangent point of the globe where the sky and the ground meet in the distance. But we globies were wrong. In order to defend the globe from these many flat Earth horizon issues, and what is commonly known as the Black Swan, we globe earthers have now discovered that there are multiple horizons on our globe, and the horizon morphs and flattens out when people actually try to film and test the shape of the Earth. Look at this video, for example. For this video, the cameraman BMLS B69 was at an elevation of 105 feet. There are 3 oil platforms he's filming. The closest one is at 10.9 miles. The second is at 21.9 miles. The third is at 26.4 miles. From that elevation, the horizon line could not be further than 12.5 miles. In other words, under the globe model, the horizon should appear in front of the second platform, and 58 feet of that second platform should be hidden behind the Earth's curvature. As you can see, the horizon is not only beyond the second platform, the horizon is beyond the third platform, further than 26.44 miles. In addition, 129 feet of the third platform should have been hidden below the horizon, but not even an inch of the platform is obstructed. We know this since the horizon is beyond the third platform. Somehow, the bulge of water selectively disappeared from in front of the second platform and then reappeared well beyond the third platform. But what's so awesome is that this Earth bulge disappeared and then reappeared without affecting the objects in the middle, which remained inviolate on the visibly flat water. Obviously, flat earthers have discovered a problem with the previously understood globe model, because the curvature of the Earth should have been blocking 2 of these distant oil platforms in varying large amounts, but it isn't. Because of flat earthers, we globe earthers have had to invent the notion that the bulge of the Earth can disappear and reappear anywhere, and the curvature in the horizon have absolutely no relation to the radius of the Earth, and this is all due to the magical properties of refraction. As another example, look at
All right. So, yeah, Taboo puts that really well. And of course, they want us to believe that all of this happens, as a result of refraction, right? Somehow where the horizon is supposed to be, the physical horizon is supposed to be, it's not there, and refraction is magically letting us see beyond that, and it's magically letting us see those platforms in their entirety, miles and miles beyond, and then somehow it lays down a horizon that's even beyond that, right? And they claim that all of this is due to refraction. And, as I've said a million times, it's like, look, what are the conditions necessary for reaction? What's the biggest condition necessary for refraction? And that would be a change in medium density, right? I think we can all agree on that. So if we have a change in medium density, that means that basically it's like visualize a laser light going through a fish tank. The light, you project it, it hits the fish tank, it hits that water, and it's immediately bent down because it's hitting a denser medium, right? But when you think about how that works on a flat Earth, well, on a flat Earth, if you shine a laser light forward, it starts going through more and more and more medium, and the density keeps increasing, right? But the problem is yeah, that'll work just fine on a flat Earth, but on a globe Earth, if you shine a laser forward, and you're perfectly level, then the ground keeps dropping away from that laser beam. The atmosphere gets thinner, not thicker. In other words, it is the opposite condition of what is necessary for the refraction they're claiming that is bending the light down to our eye level, right? Makes no sense, none. Right? Comments?
No, that's great though, and you always bring that one up, and I still don't think people grasp it, but you're absolutely right. And the more you say it, the more I'm like, you're dead on. And on a globe, you're falling away. You're going to be getting reduced, not increased.
It's also really important to notice that the temperature, you can see the farthest when it's cool and dry out, compared to in the summer when you have all the refraction going on in the air, there's a lot more humidity in the air in the summertime than in the wintertime.
Yeah. Exactly. And so these are the things. I mean, these are the primary things that we're talking about, which in the globe Earth model are not there. Therefore, it shouldn't be happening at all. The only reason it's even remotely happening, and of course, for it to happen really the way that they're claiming that it should happen, the Earth should be concave, right? Because then, as you shine forward, well, then you're getting into a denser and denser medium. But that isn't the way that it works on the globe. You're getting in a less dense medium. So, I'm sorry, Kyle, you're going to say something, or?
Well, what I was going to say real quick is it's almost as if the globe Earth sort of nefariously or dubiously presents itself to us as a plane, and refraction is its pal. Because you know, and of course there are situations where the refraction is conducive to their argument, but not all the time. I mean, there's just no way that they can stand by that with a straight face and really have their morals about them. It's ridiculous. But yeah, the ball Earth must be very smart and very dubious and very deceptive in order to present itself as a plane under so many different conditions.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it just goes completely backwards all the time. They never have the conditions necessary for what they're claiming happens, and it is just beyond belief that nobody thinks this stuff through. So it's crazy.
Yeah, the way to study that, of course, is to go to a location and observe the same feature. I saw someone in Shetland doing this. This is a place I lived in, northern Scotland, 60 degrees north. And it's an archipelago. There's 100 islands. And they were looking at the farthest island from the mainland, which is quite far away. And they were showing how there's a lot of nature people there with taking pictures of the sky and auroras and things like that, and animals. So they have great cameras. And he showed the difference, how the island seemed to bulge and change positions depending, of course, on the atmospheric conditions. And those are the studies of refraction that actually prove the contrary, that the light doesn't turn the way that ballers want it to turn. For whatever reason they give, is it gravity or whatever else, it doesn't make things flat. It would be the other way around. But yeah, that's the way. There's that famous, what is it, some bay in the United States. Paul on the Plane used to show that a lot. Kind of time lapse of the
Skunk Bay. Skunk Bay, yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of thing. There you can look into, and people can make measurements, Jay Stolen style, on how the pixels change and how features seem to rise and fall. But eventually they all average out to show you that you're seeing way too far. It's like the Chicago skyline.
Yep,
example.
Absolutely. So
Red Pill Philosophy did a video like way back where he took some footage of a lighthouse, and he went and recorded all of the temperature and the weather and all these fine details. And he's like, okay, this is what the lighthouse looks like in the cool weather, and this is what it looks like in the warm weather. Which one do you see clearer? And so clearly it was in the cool weather when there was the least amount of refraction, and you could see the difference between how high it was with the waves and how much was hidden compared to the other one in the warmer weather where it was much more hidden.
Yep. Yeah, it's just crazy. Everything always aligns with, what we would expect to see on a flat Earth, and is in stark contrast to the globe Earth model, continuously and ongoing. And here's another one. I'm going to continue playing this. If you haven't seen this particular video from Grauda One, this is his second in a series where he did refraction tests or curvature tests over a frozen lake. And the results he got this time were absolutely stunning. And the reasons that the Globers are saying that he got those results are laughable. It's so funny. So anyway, let's continue on here. Oops.
From his camera. That red light was 8 miles from the camera. The camera was at a height of 1 foot. Based on the globe math, the horizon should be no further than 1.26 miles.
But
and that red light should be 20.
But what?
You didn't level the laser. You have to level the laser. Doesn't make any. So stupid. People still say that to me. You don't have to level the laser. If you aim it down too much, you're going to hit the Earth. You're going to hit the obstruction. And if you aim it too high up, it's going to head off into space. But they don't get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that experiment. That's one of the best.
So, hey, Austin, how you doing, sir?
Hey, what's up, familia?
Good to have you with us, sir. We're just going over some of our favorite flat Earth proofs and globe Earth debunks, and so that's what we're doing. So, where are you guys at right now?
We are in Panama City Beach at the moment, and apparently traffic is insane here. It took us forever to get like 7 miles, but nevertheless, I guess I finally made it. And yeah, you know, we're just going out on the beach and going out into the areas around the beach, telling people the truth about the Earth. No big deal.
Awesome. Oh, glad to hear it. Well, cool. We're glad you could join us. And we're just going through some of these proofs that Taboo Conspiracy did on his videos. And we have Jon TheMorgile with us as a guest, and Kyle Adams. Those are our guests with us today.
Sweet. What's up, guys?
Good to meet you.
Hey, good to meet you, man.
Same. Not to derail. Sorry that I came in late.
No worries. Okay, so let's continue on with Grotto One's analysis and Taboo's commentary on it.
59 feet below the horizon. Instead, all of those lights are all on the same horizontal line when they should all be hidden behind the curvature, but there's no visible earth bulge anywhere. Mother Nature has simply removed all evidence of curvature on this frozen lake and presented all of the lights on the same horizontal plane. Pretty amazing how Mother Nature can do that. Maybe the more interesting question is, why does Mother Nature repeatedly remove the Earth's curvature? But it's a fact that nature is hell-bent in tricking us and believing a flat Earth, but we globe enthusiasts are way too smart to fall for nature's flat Earth schemes. Which brings us to discovery number 2.
Okay. So yeah, you look at that, Grotto One's got those things miles apart, and literally what they're doing is exactly what would be predicted again on a flat Earth model. In fact, it is the light that is the furthest away that appears to be the highest on the horizon. Because why? The horizon continuously rises to eye level, right? But other than that, I mean, it's almost negligible. You can't even really tell it unless you're really, really looking very, very closely at it. But isn't it absolutely amazing how Mother Nature somehow does that? And isn't it even more amazing, the globers, you know, having to do these incredible mental gymnastics to explain around something that is so blatantly obvious right in your face. It's just beyond belief.
Just ignore the atmosphere. That's their whole thing is. And so all we're doing is we're really trying to educate people about how light gets affected by the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's it. And of course, they say that, you know, we're not interested in learning about these things. And, you know, I would say that flat earthers, you know, especially some people in our community, are beyond experts in atmospheric, you know, conditions and prediction and things like that. I mean, there are people in our community, Jeran, you've interviewed a few of them. There's some really, really amazing work being done out there. And, you know, to say that we're just blowing it off and saying that we're not accepting the mainstream science model is ridiculous. And maybe we're not accepting the mainstream science narrative, but as far as the actual true science behind it, we're absolutely accepting and practicing that. So, you know, I just don't understand how they make these up. Well, I do, because they have to continuously cover up for this ridiculous model that they have to come up and making ever increasing and more ridiculous explanations for why everything we see seems to defy the globe Earth model and how things should act on it. There you have it.
And don't you just laugh every time they say, oh, well, you guys are doing science wrong because you're supposed to be trying to prove your model wrong. It's like, well, if that's the case, shouldn't you be trying to prove the flat Earth right if you're trying to prove your own model wrong to do your kind of science?
Yeah, God, if it was up to us to prove the globe Earth, well, and we do, you know, we do quite well at proving the globe Earth wrong, but it's pretty difficult to do with the flat Earth. Now, granted, there can be some explanations that can take a little bit of thinking outside of the box, and that is because, quite frankly, we are on a world that's very, very different from the one that we've been, proposed on a spinning ball flying through space at, millions of miles per hour, versus something that is stationary, that is covered, that is finite, and that is literally engineered, right? This isn't some happenstance, some fluke happenstance of nature. This place that we are at and everything in it has been engineered, and that's very clear to see. So obviously, there's going to be differences.
Sorry, I was just going to say that on what you guys were talking about before, that a lot of people went after trying to prove the ball, actually prove the globe, to prove the model, in order to test the idea that whether or not could it be flat, like Rob Skiba and others, right? He has it proving the globe or testing the globe, right? So, and I think that's a story that Mark Sargent also tells, right? He was like, I'm going to prove this wrong in 5 minutes. And then he couldn't do it, which is kind of when I talked to that guy who's in Behind the Curve, Lamar Glover, that says that flat earthers are uneducated and so on and so forth. He said, "Oh, I'm going to disprove this in 5 minutes." And he never came back with the actual disproving anything that he said that he could find it, because he couldn't answer any of the questions. So I don't know. It's just.
I think that's a big distinction to make too, is that, well, see, the globe earthers are very much married to their model, and they have to be, because they have entities like NASA spending billions and billions of dollars a year who come back saying that their model is true and correct. And so they are literally espoused to their model. And when you start finding problems with the model, that's more than a little bit troubling for them. However, when you're looking at this from a flat Earth perspective, we are not so espoused to our model. We don't have entities like NASA spending billions of dollars saying that it's true, flying around in space or whatever, saying that it's true. And so there is a little bit more freedom, but really, I think the globe Earth is and should be held to a higher standard, because this is what's taught in all of the classrooms. It's what's in all of the textbooks. It's what NASA purports. And so with that being said, when you find problems with their model, there's lots of different things you could point to, but you really have to throw the whole thing away because it is all interconnected very much. Whereas from the flat Earth perspective, we do have a little bit more leeway, because I would say we're still fleshing this thing out. I mean, I still don't think we have a 100% accurate model that we can point to and say, yeah, this is what it is. But, I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday on comments, and, I guess what their position was is if you, in my videos, I'll say, when you find this sort of problem with the globe Earth model, you have to really throw the whole thing away. The whole thing is trash. And their response to that is, well, do you hold the flat Earth to the same standard? And the answer is, well, not really, because we're still fleshing out the model. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
There's no official model, right?
You're talking before about the vested interest to conformity. The vested interest to conformity that the globe earthers have. They get up really high to all these levels of authority, and now that they are in that position, if they were to say to go against everything else, then it hurts that vested interest.
Right. And we're not flat earthers have the luxury of being able to say, well, hey, you know what? We are not claiming on behalf of all mankind that this is written in stone, that this is the way the flat earth model is. All we're saying is, look, these are observations. These are our experiments. These are the results. They seem pretty counterproductive to the globe earth model and agenda. Can you explain that with anything other than the same old tired refraction, gravity, whatever, all the things that magically seem to, do things that are frankly impossible, and why, the fact that the ballers even espouse these as excuses is beyond belief, to try and actually explain, explain away anything like what we see with the black swan, right? That all of a sudden the horizon is going to be missing from all the places where it should be, and then appear way beyond the way beyond the targets themselves. It's just crazy. So
I think and you can say that even though there is no model, obviously everyone is trying to flesh out what's going on. There's so much evidence pointing to always to the fact that the ball itself is totally doesn't hold water at all. And that should be the case. If it's not true at all, if it should be that it always fails. And it always fails. And that is very interesting. No matter what you call it, you can call it flat earth, you can call it whatever you want to. There's so many models. That's what I think about some of the ancient models, how we can try to flesh it out and look at the differences among them and see what the limits are that what we know. And we know that they know more. They definitely know more. There's people who know more than we know. And they hide that, and they kind of even flash that in our face from time to time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the important thing too, just sort of in conjunction to the point that we were talking about, is that we know that the curvature isn't there. The Earth doesn't have the necessary curvature that it should if it were a ball with a radius of about 4,000 miles. We also know that it's not spinning around on an axis, flying around at 4 or 5 different directions at once at, breakneck speed. And so with or without a model, we know that it is measurably flat and stationary, right? And that's, we don't need a model to prove that. We can disprove axial rotation and multiple curved linear orbital paths with or without a model. However, on the globe Earth side, their model, again, it's supported by all textbooks, all science books. It's taught in all classrooms. It's purported by entities like NASA. And so they have to stick with their guns. They are forever married to their model, because otherwise, what are they going to do? They're going to admit NASA was lying. Well, then I think that's game over anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not gonna get that far.
Yep. And they're already hinting at that through the media, some of the movies that we've seen. Oh, well, yeah, we had to replace those old textbooks because NASA was making up a story to bankrupt the Soviet Union, stuff like that. They're dangling their foot in that water,
Is it Interstellar? Remember that they, I think he goes.
Yeah, Interstellar is the movie where they did that, yes. So, and of course,
the landings are fake. The lunar landings are fake.
It's fakery in the media and truth in movies. That seems to be their recipe. Crazy. All right, so let's continue on to discovery number 2 from Ben. And by the way, Ben is in the chat. Thank you, Ben, for letting me go through this. This is a brilliant piece of work, and I just thought we would give it some more attention that it definitely deserves. Let's go.
We see too far, but that's okay. Before Flat Earth, no one ever knew that the Earth curved away at a huge 8 inches per mile squared. No one ever thought about the fact that we can see too far until Flat Earthers showed up with their high zoom cameras. Now Flat Earthers have hundreds of videos showing boats, buildings, lasers, mirror flashes, and many other things that should be well hidden behind the Earth's curvature, but they're not. Look at this footage from Sleeping Warrior. He's filming a lighthouse that was 31.4 miles away from the camera. The focal height of the lighthouse was 213 feet, but under the globe math, 587 feet should have been hidden. The light of the lighthouse should have been 374 feet below that horizon. But there's the light. It's certainly not hidden behind a wall of water. The wall of water must be invisible. Check out this laser test from Level Headed. The laser was 13.7 miles from the camera, and the laser source should have been hidden 107 feet below the horizon. As you can see, the wall of water that should be obstructing the laser has disappeared as the camera seemingly has a direct line of sight with the laser.
Yep. And one thing I want to say also is that, about lighthouses, you would think that they would have made them a whole lot higher if they were taking the curvature into Earth into account, right? Because you would really want to have as much warning as humanly possible to be able to see those lights as far out on the ocean and away from land as you possibly could, right? So, it seems like the typical lighthouse is maybe a couple hundred feet at best, and they count on that light to be seen for a long, long ways out. And in fact, it is. It's almost as if they knew that there was no curvature and that light would literally be seen for hundreds of miles, just like they are. Amazing, right?
Yeah, that is a really good point, man. I never thought about it that way, but you're right. I mean, they want to build it high enough to get around the curve of the Earth. I mean, assuming it's a ball, and yet they don't take that into account because, well, I mean, we know the answer to that.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, let me continue on here.
Wide Awake alone has dozens of observations that are mathematically impossible under the globe. This channel marker is called Cutter Rock, and it was 11 miles away from the camera, and the top of it should have been 26 feet below the horizon, but the horizon seems to be beyond the marker, and so none of Cutter Rock is being hidden behind a curvature. Look at this laser here. It's 16.42 miles away, and yet you can see the source. 130 feet should have been hidden behind the curvature. There are so many tests like this. We, globe earthers, start with the unquestionable presupposition that we live on a globe, but the flat earth evidence seems overwhelming at times. Mother Nature somehow makes these huge mountains of curvature disappear and present a flat earth to us because that's what Mother Nature does. Pretty amazing, right? Look at this huge cruise ship. It should be entirely hidden by the curvature, but there it is. Sometimes we globe earthers get too caught up in defending our sacred globe that we forget the amazing fact that Mother Nature and billions of years of evolution have somehow created an optically flat environment, and it took flat earthers to figure out that mysterious fact. Kudos to Flat Earth. Discovery number 3, the military has it all.
Okay. So, yeah, again, isn't it amazing? Mother Nature just seems to do that constantly. And, you know, we look at something and it's like, what do you see? Well, we see this because it's there. It's right there in front of us. We don't have to invent these ridiculous excuses, you know, and say, oh, well, this is a special condition of refraction. Isn't it amazing that it seems like the refracted world is more common than the non-refracted world, you know, to the globers, even against the idea that the globe is going the wrong way for refraction to even happen. So yeah, it's just amazing. So now he's going to go on, and now we're going to talk about the military and how they've got it all wrong. And my goodness, can you imagine how much ammunition they must have wasted, you know, firing at targets that were way beyond the horizon that there's no way they could ever hit? It's just amazing. So let's
just to add on that number 2, Bob, how many observations can you fit there? But for people who may be new to this, they may come and say, you know, they may think there's only a few. Like you know, how as Ben said, you know, there's so many. How many do you think there are? And every one of them is pointing the same thing. You get the same result.
Yep.
So, but
exactly.
There's like hundreds or thousands right now. Like even with
exactly. Oh, and by the way, guys, I do want to mention something. I was scheduled to do a show last Wednesday. I was going to do a special Wednesday night show, and I apologize for not doing it, but I had a toothache that was beyond belief. You know, it was kind of like one of those jokes, is your face hurt? No, why? Because it's killing me. My face was absolutely killing me. I had the worst toothache ever, and so I didn't get to do this, but I was going to do a show, and I'm going to do it this Wednesday instead. Hopefully, you know, God forbid the creep don't rise and all that stuff. But we're going to debunk a video that Red's Rhetoric recently came up with, because now this is their big proof, right? And again, we've already gone through this. We've already, you know, gone through this once, and that is the Equatorial Mount telescope, right? A telescope on an equatorial mount. Let's put it that way. These guys are making the ridiculous claim that it is the only thing that could, there's no way that it could possibly work on a flat Earth, and it proves that we are on a globe Earth unequivocally. And of course, the case we're going to make is what? 100% in opposition to that, when in fact it makes perfect logical sense. The way the Equatorial Mount telescope will work. So you'll want to look for that this coming up week. But again, they just come up with all these things that they think are going to shoot us down and are absolute unequivocal proof. Oh, and I believe another claim that he's making in that also is that the EQ mount absolutely gives them the value for R, the radius, without having to assume anything. That's going to be a good trick, right? So yeah, tune in. We're going to have fun ripping that one apart. All right. So let's continue on.
Just exposing the pitfalls and tiger traps.
Oh God, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, they just keep coming back at it. You know, you got to give them, you got to give them, you know, kudos for tenacity. That's for sure. All right, let's continue.
Because flat earthers discover that we see too far, and of course, we globe supporters start with our sacrosanct presupposition that the Earth is globe, then we know through basic circular logic that these distant boats have to be mirages. However, you can't perceive or detect the mirage in any manner. You're not actually looking at a boat. You're actually looking at a mirage. There's actually a 100-foot globe bulge in front of that boat.
And what you're seeing here is a mirage.
But no military manual explains the fact that long-distance targets like these are mirages and are actually blocked by giant walls of curvature. Let me make this clear. Even though you can see the boat, there is no direct line of sight. There's an invisible, massive bulge of water blocking this far-distant boat. But look at this closer boat. It's not a mirage. Mirage? Not a mirage. They look very similar, but one is hiding behind a massive but invisible bulge of water. Accordingly, one cannot simply put crosshairs and theoretically shoot the distant boat, or you'll hit the 100-foot tall bulge of curved water that is actually blocking the boat. Think of how many battles were lost with Navy ships shooting bulges of water in front of mirages.
That's hilarious.
Flat earthers have changed military manuals forever because there is no way of determining whether these boats are mirages except by using the globe curvature calculation of 8 inches per mile squared. Of course, you can use a calculator like this one, but every sailor, sniper, and artilleryman must now calculate the amount hidden behind the curvature before shooting. Otherwise, they risk targeting a mirage, which could result in disaster.
And what you're seeing.
Okay, so this is so hilarious, right? Because now what they're saying, and in response to things like these, now what the ballers are saying is that our math is wrong, right? You want to know why? Because the 8 inches per mile squared is describing a parabola, right? It's like, oh my God, this is how they are really, really desperately reaching. And of course, they're right? They're right on one thing, but they want to push this all the way around. They're saying, yeah, it describes a parabola, but the problem is that it is good enough that it works actually quite well to over 1,000 miles. Whether you use the, an AutoCAD or whether you use the Sagitta, they'll sit there and say, no, it's absolutely wrong, because you're doing something that doesn't describe a sphere or or any other object, a pear or whatever the Earth is supposed to be, but you're describing a parabola. Well, okay, great, that's great, but up to 1,000 miles, which frankly, we've gotten up to that distance. JTOL and Media has been able to see that far, but our math is good enough. If it works and it's within a few feet, I think that's good enough, right?
Isn't there an argument that the curvature should be even more pronounced when you do it right, actually? So it's even worse for them? Like if you...
Well, if we're kind of like a pair, that would mean that the northern hemisphere would actually have more than 8 inches per mile squared curvature, and the southern hemisphere would have less, theoretically.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I remember there was a guy that came over to Jeran's, I don't remember if it was a Friday Lounge, but he had this argument. Remember, he said it was way more or something like this when you actually looked at it. And they were like, okay, but that's a bit too much. Remember that?
Well, yeah, we've always had that issue. I mean, we've always gone back and forth. Bob and I have talked about it. We both have opinions on that. Kurt had his own opinion on it. Because a lot of people think there's got to be a certain amount of curve per, a consistent circle, so that it should be much more, even as much as I've heard people say 0.636 miles per mile or something like that.
That's what I said. Yeah, 636, and you were 318, and I was 636 because let's face it, if you're going forward, that amount, then you drop on the z-axis the radius, right? And you divide one into the other, and you get a ratio. Now you got the 318 because you're going all the way around the globe, and technically, I would say yours is probably more accurate because I was looking at it. But regardless, it's such a ridiculous amount of curvature that you just have to even laugh thinking about it.
Yep.
So there you have it. Okay, let's continue forward. This is great.
The
I
best
love
they
this
have
video.
when you think about it, the best they have is like barrel distortion and like compressing images from drones side to side to claim there's.
Oh my God. The first time we saw that, and I sent this over to Kyle and he put it in his last video, but the ball earthers are coming up with this thing where they take a picture and then they scrunch it. And of course, the first time they did that, I thought Jeran was going to have a cow. Because he came out with the video and he goes, okay, I'm going to take a picture of my damn kitchen countertop and then I'm going to scrunch it. And look, my kitchen countertop is curved. And then you did what? A line on a monitor did the same thing and the line came out curved.
And they keep doing it. They keep going back to that proof. I've seen more and more videos of that. It's unbelievable that they'll just keep spitting that out, not realizing that it happens no matter what. It's not even possible to keep the line straight.
No, and that is because the barrel distortion. Guys, you want to know why? Because the lens is curved. Wake up.
Well, maybe if they wish it to be a sphere hard enough, it will, in fact, turn into a sphere one day.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe if we can manifest reality, maybe that's what they're going for. Who knows? All right, let's continue.
Seeing here is a mirage.
Discovery number 4. The railgun is useless at far distances. According to this Popular Mechanics article, the railgun has a range of 126 miles. Well, that can't be true. Flat Earthers discovered that all of those billions invested by the Navy on development of railguns was wasted because the curvature of the Earth would block the projectile. For example, at a height of 50 feet at 126 miles, there should be a target hidden height of 9,180 feet. That's a massive wall in front of your target, and the fast-moving projectile would simply hit the bolts or fly over the distant object because it's hidden. I'm certainly glad that the Flat Earthers put an end to that military boondoggle because those idiot engineers forgot to account for the curvature. Discovery number 5. No acoustic globe channel. For many years, sonar technicians in navies around the world use sonar sound waves for targeting objects under the water. But these sound waves also create what is called an acoustic shadow that looks like this. These acoustic shadows are well known in the sonar world because submarines can hide in these acoustic shadows to hide from sonar detection. These sonar acoustic shadows are very accurate and are also used for mapping and locating objects underwater. Well, guess what? According to a flat Earth sonar expert, which has not been challenged by anyone, the globe does not create an acoustic shadow ever. In some way, the globe avoids all detection from sonar waves. How about that discovery?
Amazing.
Mother Nature somehow prevents sonar waves from detecting the Earth's curvature. Likewise, humpback whales can supposedly communicate at a distance over 4,000 miles. Yeah. Again, the curvature is not a problem for acoustics, as that should be a target hidden height of 1,669 miles. But the globe isn't a problem for them either. Isn't it amazing how evolution made sure that we can't find the curvature in any manner? Discovery number.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's underwater, in the air, of course he's going to get into that, radar. And that was the big thing with me is I worked in microwave and satellite, and we had so many shots microwave that were way beyond any curvature calculated distance. And of course you just never think about it at the time, but there is, we were shooting 6 gigahertz microwave shots that literally should have been hundreds if not thousands of feet behind the curvature, and there's no way, being line of sight signals only, that we should have ever been able to get through that. And this is something that is done routinely. We've had manufacturers that are actually boasting on how far they're getting with these 23 gigahertz signals, which there's no way. And now they're trying to come back and say, well, yeah, somehow it's following the curvature of the Earth, just like they're saying that Loran is doing the same thing, right? And Loran, of course, is the predecessor to GPS, allegedly. And Loran works perfectly, and it makes logical sense that it works perfectly. But I got news for you. The only way that Loran could possibly work is if it was on a flat Earth. Simple as that. So any other comments, guys?
Well, and I was just going to say my grandfather was a military engineer, so I don't appreciate that comment he made. But no, that's okay. He was like, oh, those damn military engineers didn't know what the hell they were doing. But hey, my grandfather was a military engineer. I'm kidding.
Awesome.
No,
okay.
but I think that the sonar point is really interesting, because mapping the floor of the ocean is something people are not very familiar with, and the kinds of maps, the accuracy of the maps, and the idea of the shadows, it can really only happen if the bottom of the ocean is also flat-ish at the very least, right? And that's how it operates. It's like what this flat Earth geologist from Brazil, the guy that has a big channel. He says that nothing in geology works with the ball. Nothing at all. All the major discoveries have to do with layers. They're all straight, and everything is kind of seen in a block. There's excuses later. They claim that they see the curve with ground penetrating stuff, but it's a whole. It's not what it is. So, but yeah. So,
Ciencia de verdade, right?
Yeah, ciência de verdade. Yeah,
Yep.
Dr. Afonso, he's a doctor in geology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, guys, you didn't
Cool.
know you
All
don't
right,
actually have to account for reality. You can just shoot the microwave over long distances and hit your target based on line of sight assumption, and then all you have to do is reverse engineer based on an assumed dimensions of this globe Earth that defies physics, brought to you by Jesuit priests, and then take an angle where it would have to be if the Earth was in fact a globe based on that terra firma assumption, and that makes the Earth a ball.
Yeah. What he said.
Sounds legit to me.
The ionosphere.
Yeah, unbelievable. Okay, here we go to the next one.
Number 6, all beams wrap around the curvature. We just talked about sonar, but did you know that people doubted Guglielmo Marconi could send a radio transmission more than 200 miles because of the curvature of the Earth? To his credit, Marconi didn't believe these globe enthusiasts, and he was able to send a radio transmission across the Atlantic Ocean at a distance of 2,135 miles. In other words, according to the globe math, the distant Marconi antenna should have been hidden approximately 527 miles below the horizon. It was because of Marconi's achievement that the ionosphere theory was created to explain how Marconi's radio transmission was able to bounce back to Earth. A similar problem arose during World War II. The German Nickelbein targeting system was used to enable German bombers to bomb targets in England. Essentially, 2 separate towers in Germany would transmit directed VHF radio waves towards England. The German bombers would fly along the first radio pathway and then would drop bombs where the second radio wave crossed the first path. Where the 2 radio waves cross would be the bombing target location. This bombing system was highly accurate, enough where the Germans could bomb specific buildings. But the problem, even now, is that VHF beams do not supposedly bounce off of the ionosphere. Accordingly, the leading English government scientists said that such a targeting system was impossible due to the curvature of the Earth, and so lives were lost while the matter was continually investigated. It turns out the curvature wasn't a problem whatsoever, even though the German bombers should have been hidden well below the curvature. So far, we globe earthers don't have an answer to the Nickelbein flat Earth mystery, but we'll come up with something. In addition to the fact that lasers, sonar, and VHF waves all wrap around the curvature to present a false flat Earth, the LORAN navigational location system also mysteriously wrapped around the curvature. Amazingly, LORAN radio waves could tell boats more than 1,000 miles away exactly where the boat was located. Again, LORAN was highly accurate, over 1,000 miles, even though the boat should have been hundreds of miles below the globe horizon.
Right. And let me say one thing about that. Even if it was possible that the LORAN signals were actually curving with the curvature of the Earth, they would have never worked because of the extra distance that it would have taken to cover that curvature of the Earth. It would have completely thrown off the calculations to be able to determine the target distance. So yeah, sorry, that doesn't work. And they had no idea that that was going to work that way in the first place. That's why they had to come up with inventing crazy things like the ionosphere. And I did believe in the ionosphere for a long time. And even though we do know that there are areas that are charged, that go up above, they say that the ionosphere is something like 30 or 40 miles up, something like that. And it's just nothing really is happening there to substantiate the idea that the ionosphere is affecting RF propagation at all. It's just all a bunch of nonsense, and there's no proof for it whatsoever. But there is proof.
This LORAN system, you get an echo also from the object that you're trying to target. or to
Well-
to locate.
Well, basically, what's happening is they're timed signals that go out, and they're timed extremely precisely, right? And then when you get to an intersection of two known signals, right, you take a time variance between the two of them, right, because you have the distance, and then you have the time variance that they come in at, and then you can actually do a vector and triangulate and find out where you are with great
So it's
precision.
different than, so it's not radar. Both ships have the same system and they're trying to communicate. That was what I wanted to know.
Right. No, it's not
different than
radar. It's definitely not radar. No, it's very different
like-
from radar.
Is it not similar to having two radars, or is this kind of like radio communication?
Well, it is radio communication, but only in the fact that they're looking at phase variances in the RF signal wave, and also, it's not like they're well, they may be sending information over it, but it's
It's a
it's more-
detection kind of platform.
right. It's from the distance and from the bearing that it's coming from that's allowing them to triangulate in the Loran system.
Got
It's
it. So
actually a
again,
very, very simple system. It's very straightforward, and it absolutely depends 100% on all paths being straight and level,
straight.
or it won't work.
Right, because I was just thinking, trying to imagine if you have the curvature, how would that signal, if the signal is, you allow it to curve around the ball, how would it curve back on the other path, and how would that be if there was a feedback, right? So it would make kind of sonar or long distances, not Lorentz, but sonar impossible, because the waves, the waves, even if they, you know what I mean, there would be something weird going on there. I wonder how you can simulate it.
Because you have to have a send and receive signal. You have to send the signal and receive it on the same path, right? And so it does seem that you would need that to be a straight line, rectilinear
line, yeah.
path. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just imagining that if you try to do it in a ball path, it will all be scrambled somehow. You would get lost, and that's why you need the. I don't know. It doesn't seem to work intuitively. That's
Right. Well, and they also do not they do not need to send a signal back on the Loran,
Right.
because basically what they're doing is they're taking a time and a bearing between two signals, and that allows them to do a very precise triangulation and let them know
gotcha.
exactly where they are.
It's
So-
just a very fine system, just precisely for this purpose. So it's just elegant. And it
Yes.
has
In order to
be
get
enough.
a recognizable echo off of something, it has to bounce off of a smooth, solid surface. But here they talk about this tropospheric scattering and how it goes way up in the sky and bounces off these really finely, very sparse particles way up in the air. And that's somehow they're able to do that and get
resolution.
good enough for TV resolution. It's like, what?
Yeah. And one of the big problems, of course, is if, with radio signals bouncing off of anything, is, I've talked about this before also, is a condition called multipath. If that happens, if you start bouncing signals, whether they're analog or digital, each will have their own set of problems if this happens, but you will get the signals arriving at the target at different times. And what that will do to a digital signal will, of course, cause, checksum errors. What it will do to an analog signal will, make it sound all very strange. It'll be highly distorted, highly garbled, things like that. So when you even do get into the multipath condition, it literally ruins the reception at the other end. So you don't really have that happen a lot. Where it does happen is sometimes when you are running a microwave link over land, and basically what will happen is the microwave will take that straight line path, and then sometimes it will bounce off the ground potentially, right? And if it bounces off the ground, then obviously it has to cover more of a distance, right? So then you're going to get a second signal that's going to arrive just a little bit delayed from the first signal. And that causes just all kind of problems. So, but that's beyond the purview of what we're talking about here.
That's why, you'd hear multiple echoes in a canyon. Hello, 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 hello.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. But it's
Yeah,
completely
and
screws with it.
Radiometry, and if you look even in the academic literature, if you go into academic journals and you run a search for actual flat Earth in the sciences, it comes up in the radio sciences all the time, because they model the radio signals the way they work on flat models, and they openly do so. which is kind of hilarious, like when you think about it. And then they have some curved models or some curvature models in there. They have to pump it in there, but it seems to be like kind of like after the fact, because the whole science, like you're talking about, has to be conceptualized in these straight line paths, field of sight.
Yep.
Line of sight. Sorry. Yeah.
I keep thinking back to the laser fish tank experiment where you put a whole bunch of sugar and let it dissolve in the fish tank, and so you can replicate the atmosphere, and so it's denser down low and it's less dense up high, and then you shine the light through the laser through the water, and it bends downward, and then you look through it and you can see the like if you were to put a picture at the other end of the fish tank, you can see this simulated curvature. And I was talking with Fight the Flat Earth about it one time, and he's like, "Oh, the only way you can get curvature is if you actually have a curved bottom of the tank." And I was like, "What? That's just ridiculous."
Oh, God. That guy is, oh man, he's a piece of work. Okay, all right, let's continue on.
But for some reason, the geometric bulge was never a problem for Jeran. Isn't it amazing how all beings just wrap around the curvature to present a false flat Earth? Mother Nature is awesome. Thank a flat earther for bringing that to our attention. Discovery number 7. All craters on the moon are perpendicular. Again, until flat Earth came around, I never thought about this. But all craters on the moon are perpendicular, coming in at 90 degrees. At first glance, that seems impossible under the official model because meteors should come in at all angles. Look at the moon's surface. Do you see any craters from a different angle? But it turns out that gravity is very special in that it always creates the same perpendicular crater, even on the Earth.
Okay, so now before we get a bunch of globers writing in saying, you idiots, there's at least 2 or 3 of them. In fact, we had one guy do that. And you can, if you look hard enough, there are a few, right, that are a little bit elongated and stuff like that. But by and far, in excess of 99% of all of these so-called craters on the moon, they would have been made by a meteor coming in at a direct 90-degree tangent, right? In order to make the pattern that they did. So that's the only thing I'm going to correct on that with Ben is, yeah, there are some, but not enough to really even worry about. But, you know, you got to have the globers. They have to fight for every inch that they've got. But the bottom line is the point is the same. How is it even possible, especially on the earthward side, that the meteors, you know, what got in between the Earth and the moon and hung a hard right and then slammed into the Earth at a perfect 90-degree angle? Sorry, I'm not buying it. And I think that the electric universe theory is far better in saying in predicting what has happened here, and that is that these are actually electrical discharge markings, and this actually goes much closer to what we see in plasma physics and demonstrations in plasma. So there you have it.
Bob, do you think that Lucas King's idea about the moon having this kind of cathode or anode properties in relation to the sun, do you think that makes sense, of the gold and the silver? I
think it's possible, because obviously there's absolute interactions between the sun, moon, and the Earth. Right now, the problem is, of course, we can speculate a lot, but we don't have a lot of information. But and the globers, of course, will say, well, we've got it all figured out, and yet they can't even identify the anomalies of why the moon orbits in such a way that it does, right? They have this inexplicable orbital pattern. They can't really come up with anything that accounts for that. If you look long before I ever got into flat Earth, I was looking at the moon and what all these university astrophysics departments were saying about the moon. And they're all saying the same thing. The moon is an enigma. It is completely bizarre. Its actions are inexplicable. And we really have nothing that explains it, right? So, but NASA will have you believe that they know everything about it. Of course, up until last year, they didn't even know there was an atmosphere extending out around it, right? So yeah, it's just
there's water in it and all this water.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like hollow or
those craters over there. They're claiming those are extinct volcanoes now.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
volcanoes.
It's utterly retarded. So all right, so let's continue on.
Earth. Sure, it doesn't make any sense, but that's why we have gravity. It just fixes everything. It stops those meteors in their tracks and brings them straight down.
Ah, yeah. Well, whenever you notice something like that, a wizard did it.
Discovery number 8. The tides and the magic of gravity. Speaking of gravity, I never actually knew the official heliocentric story about how the gravity of the moon not only pulls the oceans towards the moon, but then pulls the Earth ground, causing high tides on the opposite side of the Earth. In other words, the Earth strangely bounces and creates high tides on the opposite side away from the moon. Thanks to flat earthers, I had to look that all up.
The moon's here. It's pulling on the ocean at the top of the Earth, creating a high tide on the top. Now on the bottom, another high tide is created because the Earth itself is pulled toward the moon, even though the oceans down here have less gravitational pull exerted on them, being farthest away from the moon. So on the
That has got to be one of the most outrageous and retarded explanations I've ever heard in my life.
For sure.
Look at the look on his face when he's saying that too. Like you can tell he really hates himself right there. He just really hates himself.
It's so funny.
I know, and they cannot keep a straight face. I would never be able to do it, and they can't. You can't even blame them. You know, it's like, wow, look at the bullshit we're peddling here.
That's been one of the big topics that we've been discussing a lot on the debate board is how can the Earth have an elliptical orbit around the sun? In order for that to happen, the sun would have to have a weaker amount of gravitational pull on one side than it does on the other side. And it's like, what? How is that happening? How is the gravitational pull weaker on one side than it is on the other? Not that gravity is like a real thing or anything. We've thoroughly gone over about how it's a fictitious force. And that's my big thing is it's a fictitious force. It's non-existent.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, let's continue.
the top and bottom, you have high tide because of the tidal bulges. And on the sides that are at right angles to the moon, you have low tide because the ocean's stretched thin over the surface of the Earth. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. It's hard to believe the Earth bounces to create a high tide away from the moon, but it must be real because the official sounding video says so. Sure, flat earthers point out that some places have 4 high tides, and the high tide doesn't have any relation to the position of the moon and the fact that the moon's position should be easily detectable with modern high-precision scales, but the moon seems to have no gravitational effect on anything but the high tides and the non-detectable Earth bounce. Another amazing fact about gravity. Like refraction, it fixes everything, but yet eludes all actual testing.
Well, whenever you notice something like that, a wizard did it.
Discovery number 9. The Soviets never went to space. Of course, we know that NASA would never lie to us. But that doesn't mean the Soviets never lied. Unfortunately, the Soviets' lies were so good that NASA was never able to figure it out, and so there actually wasn't a space race. Look at this Soviet moon spaceship called Luna 16. I mean, who would ever think that this was fake?
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
Elon is such a genius. I mean, who can argue with that logic? But here's that video of a former Soviet cosmonaut saying that they've never been to space.
Вы знаете, вот сказал, что вроде честь космонавтов, что они не говорят о том в космосе. А им говорить нечего. Я об этом
кара космонавтите да говорят за това, което става в космоса. Те просто не знаят нищо такова. Ние не сме били в космоса. Ако някой твърди това, това не е вярно, не е истина.
Това е поредната хипотеза, над която ще се наложи заедно с зрителите на въпросна гледна точка да размишляваме дълго.
Хорошо.
Добре.
Это хорошо, когда
това
люди
е добре,
думают.
когато хората мислят. Това ми харесва.
Игор Петрович, благодаря ви за участието във въпросна гледна точка.
Моля.
Okay, and of course, as we know, he wasn't the only astronaut to come forward and say that. Yeah, there also was the Polish astronaut that came forward and said nobody's ever been to space, and that all of that was a lie. And then what was it? Gus Grissom, of course, was basically ridiculing the entire Apollo program and how nothing worked right on it. And it was an utter joke. of course, he died in a fire inexplicably after that. But it's just amazing, you know. They even have astronauts that are supposedly, you know, the best of the best of the best as far as people out there, and the fact that even two of them would get through and say that. And then we've got, you know, our very own you know, astronauts that are saying, well, we didn't go. You know, we didn't go. Of course, people will say we took that out of context with old Buzz, but you know, even he is straight up said that. The body language, so many things, you know, are dead giveaways from the astronauts. The contradictory stories about what you can and cannot see in space. I got news for you. There is no way that people could look at anything happening in space and seeing anything as magnificent as what it must look like and get it wrong. It's just like me saying that, you know, when I went and saw that eclipse in 2017, that I would say is, oh, it was green and kind of hazy and it was weird. When in fact, it was spectacular. I remember every detail about it. I'll never forget it, ever. And, you know, the fact that an astronaut could ever forget any minute detail is simply too far out there for me to even believe. So there you have it. Let's continue on.
Discovery number 10, the mysterious Selenelian. We globe supporters know that the lunar eclipse is one of our only arguments for a globe, but then those flat earthers started talking about the impossible red shadow color and how the supposed shadow often moves the wrong direction, moving from the top to the bottom, as explained by this confused individual.
I find very interesting is I was expecting the shadow to come upward across the moon as it would go down and it would pass into shadow, and actually it's going the other way around. The shadow, as the moon is here, the shadow is creeping down across the moon, even though the sun's coming up over here, and that must be because of the moon's rotation around the Earth.
Because of the moon's rotation. You know, the first time I saw that, I thought that was amazing, right? It's like, how in the world could the shadow be coming top down? You know, it's bad enough that it's even there at all, but to come from the top down, what possible explanation could there be for that? You guys heard any good ones on that?
Yeah, that's good. It's gravity.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but I remember, you know, that actually we had a Selenelian not too long ago when that happened. In fact, I think it's this very one that he's commenting on. And yeah, that was absolutely going on as the shadow's coming down. It's like, how in the hell could that possibly happen? And so, you know, I remember looking for some genius to get out his little geometry whiteboard and explain it all to us, but I never did see anything like that. But, you know, that in and of itself just debunks the entire globe model.
Dude, the most I ever saw was a glober came back to me with this simulation, and it has everything chaotically wobbling and moving around like so crazy. And he's like, "That's why, because sometimes the shadow will change. You see." And it doesn't in any way specify. And that's like, you know, after I asked everybody with all these credentials, you know, astrophysics professor, blah, 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 like the shadow coming from the wrong direction, they can't even like make up an answer. It's hilarious.
Yeah, there just can't be one. And I'd love to hear one, you know, ballers. And I know there's ballers out there listening. I'd love to hear it, at least something that is at least somewhat coherent. To explain a Selenelian that does that, but I don't think we're getting anything on that. And honestly, if you're intellectually honest, that in and of itself should raise your eyebrows so high that it should really put you into a frenzy researching your own model. But
now the Selenelian, now isn't that when the sun and the moon are visible overhead during the lunar eclipse?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and so on top of that, we have the shadow coming from the top down. Now, does anyone know, is it always coming from the top down or only sometimes during the lunar eclipse?
It's not every time. It's from my understanding. It's just like occasionally a Selenelian eclipse will come from the wrong direction.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
So apparently, and that's what I've heard too. It's apparently there is no consistency to it, and even if it was,
much right there.
Yeah, even if it did come down the same time, again, how? What is there, a mirror up there? I mean, what's going on? It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, and you know, the conditions for a lunar eclipse are so specific because, okay, you have to have a full moon and you have to have the full moon becoming precisely full when the moon is exactly on the ecliptic plane, right? And in order to fulfill those conditions in the standard model, it has to be a very specific set of actions that take place. And frankly, you should see a carbon copy of the same thing every single time during the lunar. And the fact that there are variations in the lunar eclipses is pretty damning, because again, it's like threading the needle. I mean, you have to be dead on balls accurate on all these conditions in order to get that lunar eclipse. And yet we have, different flavors of lunar eclipses.
Yeah, of course, NASA admits they still use the Saros cycle from the Chaldeans thousands of years ago to predict eclipses. What's hilarious about the selenilian, though, is their official explanation is that it's an optical effect due to refraction, atmospheric refraction. But then they, of course, being the retards that they are, they predict the eclipses, the selenilian eclipses, in advance using the Saros cycle and the cyclical nature of the sky. So how could they do that if it was based on atmospheric refraction that changes day to day and hour to hour?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, one thing that I found out when I look at the selenilion, and I try to go in academic databases, is that you don't have anything about it. They don't say anything. It's almost like a silence about it. And you find mentions of it in the news, actually. You don't find academic papers devoted to the selenilion.
No, they just call it the impossible eclipse and keep it pushing. That's what they do. It's just like with the cosmic microwave background, when they found out that the Earth is clearly not sitting and spinning through space at all these different vectors because the quote unquote equator is perfectly aligned with these quote unquote galaxies, showing that it's centralized. So they call it the axis of evil, and just kept it pushing. So when they literally don't have an answer, they just tell you this is an impossible eclipse. But anyway.
And it's evil.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's continue.
But what really bothered me was when those annoying flat earthers started talking about selenilians. A selenilian is where there's a lunar eclipse when both the sun and the moon are above the horizon, like in this video. Geometrically speaking, there's no direct line of sight for the Earth's shadow to appear on the moon. Fortunately, Mother Nature fixes that too, because Mother Nature takes the Earth shadow and bends it to fall on the moon. How amazing is that? Especially since that only happens during a selenilian. Yes, the selenilian has been around for a long time, but because of flat earthers, we globe enthusiasts have had to rely on some pretty wild theories to maintain the globe and the heliocentric model. But wild, unprovable theories are okay and encouraged. Discovery number 11. Space hair.
There
this lady here
shadow even if there couldn't be a shadow if the sun is hitting the surface of the Earth. That's the whole point of putting the two words together: selene for the moon, and helion for the sun.
Exactly.
That's what's important. It's not really the fact that the direction of the shadow coming in, but the fact that there's a shadow at all in this kind of situation, which leads me to the question for you guys: what do you think the shadow is?
Me personally, I believe that there are dark bodies, black bodies out there. In fact, we have seen pictures of them, not only from the airplane ride. I've actually shown them several times. And ironically, they seem to fit along with the Rahu and Ketu, serpent myth, right? Where Rahu is the head of the serpent that was actually detached, and the head of the serpent swallows the sun, as the myth goes, etc. But what's interesting is when we were looking at those black bodies, it was like there were a bunch of little tiny spheres, and there was one that was covering the sun, and it seemed to be separated from a body of a string of 3 or 4 other ones. Now, again,
soap bubbles, right?
Exactly. And we've seen this on more than one occasion. And then somebody also caught it during the 2017 eclipse, same type of thing. We had that one that was taken from the airplane that I can't remember what YouTuber it was originally that pointed it out. But but we've seen that recur a few times since then. And I tend to believe that there's absolutely some sort of a black body that is causing this. So I'm not, I would have to say that as crazy as Rahu and Ketu sound, mythically, that there's probably some truth to it.
Do you think that the dark bodies are in fact also the cause of the phases of the moon?
Very possible.
Dude, I was sitting out there the other day looking at the moon with the P1000. It was crystal clear, and I was like, clearly something is coming over the face of the moon. Yeah, like it's clearly being blocked you know, and it just progresses through the mind. Like when you look at it, it's what it looks like, you know.
Huh.
Yeah, it's great.
One thing I'll say is it's pretty amazing to me how.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Oh, no, you go. Well, I was just going to say how sort of perfect it is. It's almost like that this world is the perfect place to trick people into thinking that the world is a ball in space. I mean, because like, you know, look at lunar eclipses. The ball Earth theory really does. It makes a lot of sense for lunar eclipses. I mean, until you throw the little monkey wrenches into the gears with the selenelion and things like that. But other than that, you know, it's perfect. I mean, it really explains it well. And in terms of the, you know, the flat Earth, honestly, I can comfortably say I have no idea what causes lunar eclipses. Although I will say that there must be some logical, rational explanation for it. And one day, sooner or later, if we can start, let's say we give NASA's budget to us, we'll figure it out for sure.
Yeah, you know, I think John, honestly, I'm not so sure I agree with that entirely, because if you take a shadow and you put a shadow of a ball over another ball, you get this really bizarre looking pattern that comes across, and has Arrow has shown us, you know, quite, you know, specifically and quite graphically, if you have a true sphere, right, a ball, and you can take a straight edge like a ruler and cast a shadow over the top of it, and it casts a perfect circular or spherical shadow right over the top of it, right? So I just don't, you know, when I have seen a ball cast a shadow over another ball, to me, it really does not look like what we see during the eclipse.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I was just saying more along the lines of like the conditions needed for the lunar eclipse. You know, in many ways, it works on the standard model, right? But then, yeah, there's lots of problems with it, granted. But
yeah, the sizes primarily, they're way off, and they're inconsistent. You know, and that you would think that, you know, turning around there would be some degree of consistency. You know, at least ratio wise. You know, whether it's the Earth casting a shadow over the Moon or the Moon casting a shadow over the Earth, you would think that there would be some cohesion between those two models, and there isn't. Never.
Well, and like, yeah, look at solar eclipses. Usually the shadow of the moon is anywhere from 50 to 100 miles in diameter, which is, that's ridiculous, because, you know, the moon is supposedly 1,000 miles in diameter, right? So, I mean, how do you get a 1,000-mile diameter object to cast a shadow that's 50 to 100 miles in diameter? That's absurd. But there's other times when during solar eclipses where the moon's shadow is as little as 2 miles in diameter. And to me, that's insane.
Yeah, isn't it 2160? Isn't that the moon diameter? Or am I wrong on that?
Oh, I meant to say radius, but yeah, I always get the two mixed up for the moon size.
In any case, it's far off, so far off by thousands, right? It's not just a little bit off; it's way off, right?
Yeah, yeah. For example, you know, they predicted a 70-mile wide umbra on the 2017 eclipse, and when we launched our balloon, what was like really bizarre about this, and Chris noticed it too, is we saw an umbra and that's it. We did not see a penumbra. Absolutely did not. It went from light to dark. Shadow. Yeah, just shadow, and that was it. So no penumbra, which of course, again, is not consistent with the globe model.
It's like try to create a condition where you can take a basketball and cast a shadow of that basketball that's the size of like a marble, right? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain conditions when you can cast smaller shadows, and that has to do with the angle that it's done at. So that's something that, you know, I try and avoid that particular argument, because there actually is a way that can be done. So, but there's so many other things.
To take a basketball and cast a shadow that's the size of a marble?
Well, I don't know about a marble, but to cast a smaller shadow, yes. And it has to do with the angle that the light hits it. There's videos out there that do it, you know, flat earth debunk videos that they actually show that. So, and you know what? It doesn't matter to me, because it doesn't make or break the flat earth model. You know, every once in a while, you know, the Globers have to have at least something partially right, you know?
Well, the problem with it is, though, to make the claim that all the light rays are parallel, right, just until they conveniently need to converge into a penumbra. I mean, that's a cool story and everything, but the angle of the light doesn't change, you know, like it's all 90 degrees.
That's
I've
right. I
shown
mean, you
examples
have
of
to
number
have,
off of my hand, my own shadow.
yeah, you have to have like an omnidirectional light where the light is coming in parallel to hit the obstruction. So you have to have sort of the standard model conditions being met. And if you have it set up that way, then the shadow of that, you know, basketball or whatever you're using for the demonstration is going to be at least as wide as the basketball. Because again, yeah, you have to have parallel light coming in to hit the basketball.
That's
And
true. And that's why I said that's why I said it deals with the angle of the light. The way that the sun supposedly would be projecting the moon shadow on the earth, it is impossible for that to happen. But you're right about that. But you know, the Globers aren't interested in that. They will make a condition where it works, but it's not the condition where it
Right,
works.
yeah, exactly. Well said.
Yeah. So
just I was going to mention that in the Mahabharata, Rahu is mentioned, of course, many times. Yeah, and I was just like, okay, let me just see if I can pull a reference. And I opened the book and a page that I made a mention here, page 168 out of, what is it, 500? And it says, Simhika gave birth to a son named Rahu, the persecutor, they translate, of the sun and the moon, and to 3 others, Suchandra, Chandraharta, and Chandra Vimardana. And that they talk about all these things, and I don't know if there are things that are supposed to be in the sky, but Rahu has this role of persecuting the moon and swallowing it or something, and the sun. So it is that idea of that other body. And also in these texts, the moon has a cooling light, and it has his own light.
Yeah,
which is,
and it's kind of cool that at least the Globers, even Ken Wheeler, Slice Barkane, you know, they have come out and done their own tests and say, yep, well, sure enough, flat earthers are right about that. Of course, they don't go beyond that and offer any explanation as to why, because according to the mainstream model, that's just point blank impossible, right? But at least they acknowledge that it happens.
Right.
So there you have it. All right, let's continue on. Oops,
yeah,
sorry.
It is no. Just saying that. What does it? What is it then? You know, is that something electrical? That some kind of electrical light? Are there lights that we have? Because we use lights to grow plants. They're very similar to sunlight. Do we have lights that can generate this? Artificial lights that can do? I don't know. I'm just asking. That can do cooling.
I think they have a cooling. I think there's a cool laser. I think that is an existing thing.
There is, and that has to do with basically an interference. I think in the infrared spectrum that it causes a phenomenon like that happening. But yeah, it's not the same. It's not what we're seeing in the measurements. So it's just weird. So okay, let's continue on. Oops, let's get over to it. There we go.
An airplane that is nosediving in a parabolic arc to create a weightless environment. NASA even uses these airplanes constantly and to fake weightlessness in propaganda movies like Apollo 13. But notice that the woman's hair in the weightless environment flows naturally, like it's in a swimming pool. It's what we would expect. Now compare that hair in a true weightless environment with the hair of this astronaut woman in space. They're most certainly not the same. Of course, we know that NASA would never lie about space, and so we can logically conclude that NASA didn't deliberately sculpt the woman's hair into a Bride of Frankenstein style just so her hair looks spacey. No, NASA would never do that, and so the conclusion is that only in space can you get space hair like these astronauts. I wouldn't call that a huge discovery coming from flat earthers, but hey, I'm sure that hairstylists would like to debate space hair for many years. And maybe they'll be able to capture some space someday and give men and women these amazing hairdos back on Earth.
You look like you're in a...
Yeah, I got to say that's something that is beyond belief. Who came up with that idea? Let's just shellac it so it's straight up in the air and people are going to buy that, the hair actually looks like that in space. Unbelievable.
They laugh about it in people's faces.
They do.
Point to it as if it actually is the evidence for space instead of the other way around, and they laugh in your face.
I know.
Pretty incredible.
The backwards, yeah, no doubt. The backwards methodology works so well. It's just crazy.
Honestly, I wasn't sure if they were in space until I saw her hair, and I'm convinced.
Yeah, and that's it sounds like a joke, but that's actually what I've had people say to me. You know, like watching a video, like look at her hair. You know, it's like they're put in a trance where they operate at such a remedial level that they actually think that hair is proof that the Earth's a ball and they're in space.
Oh my god!
It's like it's like a spell. Yeah.
Studio, maybe in Omaha, Nebraska or something. The shot is so clear. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair?
I think Sandy's hair is pretty much a dead giveaway.
Yeah, it is.
Discovery number 12. When did we get a green atmosphere? Whenever you watch a new video of space, you get this beautiful green atmosphere. It may look like a cartoon, but there's still no way they could fake something like this.
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
But the flat earthers have raised a good question. Why didn't this beautiful green atmosphere exist during earlier space travels? I mean, look at these photos from earlier space missions, and there's no green atmosphere. Accordingly, the green atmosphere must be a recent phenomenon in the last decade or so. And so that makes for another interesting issue pointed out by flat earthers. I don't know what the explanation is, but I'm pretty sure that gravity and refraction fixes it. But now that I'm watching this SpaceX video again, not only is the green atmosphere missing, but also where are those?
Yeah, and where are the brake pads on the car? That's another thing that's missing.
That's a good point.
How's he going to stop?
19,287 satellites. I keep looking through the SpaceX video, and I don't see any sign of those 19,287 satellites. Aren't they supposed to be lit up like Christmas trees? I wonder how much SpaceX paid to have all of those 19,287 satellites in space relocated to the other side of the Earth. Discovery number 13, the rising horizon. Here's Felix Baumgartner at roughly 10 feet above the ground. Here's Felix at 128,000 feet, and the horizon hasn't dropped one iota. Of course, on a globe, the horizon should not rise up with the observer, but it obviously has. So nature and millions of years of evolution have somehow made it so that the horizon rises up with the observer. Must be some new refraction abilities. In addition, look at that flat horizon. We used to think that you could see the curvature from airplanes, but that's simply not true. Now we globe supporters have to concede that you can't ever see the curvature unless you're in an official space agency, no matter how high you get up. Discovery number 14, selective Coriolis. Felix Baumgartner brings me to one more point. It took Felix 2.5 hours to get up to 128,000 feet. We'd think that the rotation of the Earth at 1,040 miles per hour would somehow have an effect on the balloon. In fact, Felix should have roughly landed 2,000 miles to the west into the Pacific Ocean. Instead, Felix actually landed 44 miles to the east of his launch site. Of course, that doesn't make any sense under the globe model, but it turns out that we have a new phenomenon of nature to explain that away. As it turns out, Felix's balloon actually sped up to keep up with the ground below it, kind of like spokes on a bicycle wheel. And then he fell down right near where he started because Mother Nature somehow planned it that way so that the Earth would only appear motionless. It seems that the Coriolis effect only applies to field goal kickers, like Tyson says here, engine-driven Foucault pendulums, and toilets, but has no effect on anything else such as snipers, helicopter flights, east-west airplane flights, or even high-altitude balloons. In addition, no matter how much the Earth changes in varying motions, some extraordinary force makes it so that we can never feel or measure anything, even though the changes in movements should be perceptible and measurable. These are all new physics that have been discovered due to the flat Earth revolution. Discovery number 15, the wide-angle lens curvature.
Actually,
of course, wide-angle.
Neil Tyson saying that the curvature, the Coriolis effect is fictitious force, and saying that these fictitious forces don't exist.
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Well, it's fictitious, and it's also illusory. And it is. It's an illusion. It's something that is not actually happening. And even when you go into Wiki and look at their little demos, and I did a show on Coriolis, and we went through all of that stuff, and it's something that is simply not real, right? And it doesn't happen, and there's nothing that proves that it does happen. It's just
I love it when I
incredible.
can get those big guys to agree with us and say, "Oh, yeah, it doesn't exist." And then anytime someone else comes and argues with me, are you saying you disagree with Neil Tyson here?
Yeah.
Bob, doesn't it quote unquote exist when you're in a Ferris wheel or spinning and then you throw something over
On a merry-go-round, yeah. But even then, Rodrigo, it's not actually curving around. It just
Because it
looks
goes
like
straight,
it is.
right?
It appears that way to
when you
your
release the
frame
ball,
of reference. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So the ball, when you release whatever object, it goes straight once it leaves. Right.
Yes. So it's basically a trick of it's an optical illusion. It's not real. It's not actually happening. And in order for for it to work the way that the ballers say that it does, it literally would have to disconnect from the Earth frame of reference and go into its own frame of reference and wind up somewhere else, commensurate with being disconnected from the Earth frame of reference. But that never happens, and most often the opposite happens.
That's a Velcro model, right? They invented, right? That's a new double think kind of turnaround and inversion that they have.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then of course, then when we explain this, and I can't even tell you how many times this has been explained. What is the response? Well, you guys just don't understand. You just don't understand. I mean, woe is us. We don't understand.
we just don't get it. We just don't.
It's called projection. I don't know how to explain it, so I'm just going to say you don't understand it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially as in detail as we have gone into it. I mean, for crying out loud, we've done entire shows on it. I can't even tell you how many times Nathan Oakley and those guys have covered that. And, to listen to those people come back and still argue for it, and they don't even know. And what's amazing is they don't even know what the argument is. They act completely clueless on it. It's amazing. Whether that's psychology, some sort of psychology or brainwashing, or just outright being an agent and telling lies, I don't know, but it is amazing to watch the results.
It's the effect of the educational model of multiple choice, reward and punishment. You get it right, and it's like you don't understand why it is there necessarily. You just know what the right answer is, and you can't connect the dots with the logic. So when you get the contradictory evidence, they tilt and then they just resort to whatever is available until they finally kind of get over the emotional shock of being confronted, I think.
Yep. Or just cornered right into a corner where they have to deny, like what they did with curvature, denying that the physical Earth curve even exists. No, you can't see it. No, you can't see it. It's not there. We can calculate it. That makes it there. But other than that, it's not there. It's like, that is unbelievable.
Well, it's like Alan Bean going through the Van Allen belt, right? It wasn't there, so
it didn't affect him.
We went right through it.
Yep.
But like with the Coriolis force thing, when you're dealing with that rotational frame of reference, that's something that if you're attached to the Earth as the primary body that's rotating, okay, so you're attached to that frame of reference. But the instant that you're released from that frame of reference, you should you shouldn't continue with that rotational frame of reference. It's like if you spin, if you take a length of string and attach a weight to it and spin it around, and then when you release that weight, you don't expect that weight to continue spinning around as it did when it was attached to the string, right? And so that's the exact same thing that we should expect with, either sniper shots or field goal kicks or anything that's dealing with being released from the Earth's rotational frame of reference. You just don't see it, and it should be obvious. I mean, it should be that should apply itself to anything that is, either any kind of projectile, and yet we don't see it anywhere ever. Airplanes, nothing.
And of course, you see it. Exactly what you're describing, you see in the Olympics all the time with the hammer throw and the discus, which are released exactly through rotation, and they go straight. And so, just that
exactly.
Just proves up.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's continue on.
Angle fisheye lenses on cameras have been used for decades, but it took flat earthers to point out the fact that for some reason, Wide-angle lenses and curved windows are used to fake the curvature all of the time. Isn't it strange that all of these publications are using the obvious fisheye lens as proof of curvature? It took flat earthers to point out that globe supporters were using this trickery when it's not entirely honest. But I guess I do understand the globe position, because if you start from the infallible globe presupposition, you can change the facts a little to maintain the original sacred premise. Sure, it's phony, but it's called artistic license.
That's right.
So maybe I should take this one off of the list. Discovery number 16. No testing necessary for space travel. Look at this lunar lander. I know it looks ridiculous, but it's truly a marvelous spaceship that could drop from lunar orbit at 4,000 miles per hour and land on very rough, uniform-colored, rock and crater-infested terrain under poor light and viewing conditions. Then after 3 days of playing in the dust, even with a dune buggy that was somehow included in the trunk on later flights, the top part of this craft separated and blasted back into space to again rendezvous with the command module in orbit days later. That was actually traveling at a mere 4,000 miles per hour.
Yep. The only thing I got to disagree with Ben there is that, when he said that it landed in poor light, when, after doing the inverse square calculations of light, then we know that it's 14.7 quadrillion lumens of light. It should have been pretty well lit up there, I would have thought. But
would have been fine. Blinding.
Yeah.
How did they take any pictures at all? What kind of special filters did they have?
How did they not vaporize? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue.
We know this Apollo 11 footage is real because NASA is included within our infallible presuppositions. But what's so amazing is the fact that the lunar lander was never actually flown on Earth. Ever. Not even once. It took moon landing deniers to point that out. No necessity to practice these crazy maneuvers of falling at 4,000 miles per hour and redocking at 4,000 miles per hour. You just need to fly.
What happened?
Did we? Am I the only one that lost audio?
What happened? I don't hear anything either.
Bob, are you there? Bob,
yeah, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right, we're better now.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Really sharp and precise turns on that lander there.
Oh,
very robotic.
Is
There's
it
no
should say?
misgiving or anything.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, let's continue.
A completely different aircraft.
We're almost done, guys.
A few hundred feet above a flat air base during the day, and you're good. And still, 3 of these 5 alleged training vehicles crashed. But that wasn't a problem for NASA, because NASA and their astronauts are so smart that they don't actually have to test their vehicles that were going to be used in space in extreme circumstances. Here's more evidence of that. This is a time lapse of a Boeing aircraft being assembled. But do you know that there's not a single video or photograph of the ISS being assembled here on Earth? There was absolutely no.
Oh my God. And I got to tell you guys, I made that statement at my presentation in Dallas, where I said there's not a single video or picture, anything like that, of the ISS being assembled in space. And so people would send me all of these things where they would show like bays, container bays, where they were supposedly putting together. Of course, they're down in warehouses, right? Which it could have just as easily been at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. But still, there's nothing up in space where they're literally, doing any construction work. They just have, astronauts hanging around. Guys, this is something that there should have been thousands, literally thousands of hours of documentation going on and on and on. And, you make that statement, the ballers will come back and say, oh yeah, look at this right here. This proves you guys are full of crap. And it's just like unbelievable, the things that they're showing. It's like they're not even paying any attention. It's crazy.
Even in the when was
they're looking like they're doing something.
When was the Empire State Building built? Because that is fully documented, right? It was 100 years ago or over.
Yeah, over
100 years ago, and they had better documenting technique, I guess.
Happens. Yeah. This is the biggest engineering and most costly engineering project in the entire history of mankind, and the few pathetic snippets that they show, are basically posers and things sitting in warehouses. There is no actual construction footages, and when there should be literally thousands of hours.
They probably lost it, right? They lose stuff, and they also destroy technology, so it's part of the.
Yeah.
Well, they had it, but then they were having a tape shortage, so
right. They
had to raise them, re-record.
Yeah, no kidding.
With
Okay.
their budget, right?
All right. So, oops, I'm just sitting here reading the private chat.
They would have just lost them anyway or thrown them away anyway when they got them back to home, right? They just re-record over them with reruns of I Love Lucy.
Yeah, no kidding.
You just don't have the budget for it. It's
So, Austin, I just saw your message in the private chat. You should go to Miggy's channel, and you're going to start guest hosting there. Is that right?
Yeah, Miggy, Miggy on YouTube. I'm gonna try to guest host on there so they can't censor me.
Oh, okay, that's cool. YouTube channel. Well, it's not that they can't censor you. It's just you still might have to be a little bit more careful about what you say, though, because if they're going to get you, they're going to get you.
Yeah, for sure. I just know that Owen had. Sorry about the background. Oh my gosh, why is this dude blowing a horn? What a loser. So, anyway, I just know that Owen had some luck guest hosting on these other channels where he's back on YouTube now. So I figured it may be worth a try. And then, yeah, like you said, just try to be a little more conscious of what I say. I mean, YouTube. They dropped the hammer on me all at the same time. I was logged out of my Discord randomly, logged out of my emails, logged out of my YouTube. They said that it'd take a week. Then they said after 13 days, they were like, oh, nope, you can't go live till May 22nd. You got to go to school or something like that. And then I appealed. It takes 10 more days. My D-Live was signed out. They've already censored me. I can't remember what else. It's just endless. Oh, my merchandise store got censored. And this all happened within a 24-hour period. So I'm just trying to find a way to kind of beat them at their own game, I guess,
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, Walt sent me a thing from Iron Realm Media. Same thing happened to them. They're being censored and they got shut down. So they're going to be on their backup channel until May. And I will put that in the show notes, Walt, and actually show the channel here in a bit. But there is an Iron Realm Media podcast channel that you guys want to do too. And then go to Miggy's channel. And maybe, Austin, we can set you up with something. Maybe you can broadcast on Globebusters too, or the Globebusters, the other Globebusters channel that we have well over 1,000 subs on as well.
Okay, sweet.
That reminds me, I got hit with the community guidelines strike just yesterday for a video I put out on Pizzagate whenever Pizzagate was, a year, 2 years ago. And they just got around to hitting me with the community guidelines strike, which I did appeal. So as of yesterday, I can't post anything new for, I think, a week or two. So yeah, I'm going to have to go to my backup channel as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's what they did to me, man. That's it about Jeran and Bob had to take their videos down. They struck my stream from almost 2 months ago.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy because when they hit, you're lucky, John, that they only got you for a week or so. Because a lot of us, they're nailing us on 3-month ones, and so it's crazy. And unfortunately, I don't know what the hell is going on with Lighthouse, but they keep going through these delays, and I'm beginning to wonder, to be honest with you. But hopefully they'll get something going on. But now they're talking it's not going to be till April, so we may need to come up with a plan C. So this is just ridiculous. And right now is the time that we need this freedom of speech platform more than ever. But I also understand they have a lot of money and a big investment they need to protect.
Yeah, and think about it though, there was never been a time with more demand for it than about 2 months ago. They shut down Parler. Everyone was just dying for something. If Lighthouse was already launched, they would have potentially broke the matrix, broke through the little matrix of monopolistic companies, right? So there is a huge demand. So I would say if they get the ball rolling, they still may be able to pull it off. But yeah, we need to come up with, I'm looking at everything, right? I'm looking at Rumble, Trovo, Twitch, and all these places have problem with censorship, dude. It's insane. So I guess I'm just going to make each platform kick me off and see where it goes from there. I don't know what else to do.
Well, I started posting up onto BitChute, where I'm doing pretty good. I've got 4 subscribers on there. And I think one of my videos, I got 25 views. But, and I haven't really put it out there much, but yeah, BitChute seems like it's pretty good. They're still sort of in a beta mode where half the time, if I upload a video, it will upload and process just fine. And then the other half the time, it'll just get caught into processing limbo and it never is available to view. But seems like if you keep uploading a video, eventually it does go through processing. But yeah, BitChute seems like it's pretty good though. Once
John,
the videos are up, it does stream pretty well.
You should try Odyssey, John. See, because that's
Odyssey.
another, yeah, Odyssey.
Yeah,
I think
AKA library, right?
Yeah, I think it's
LBRY. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You
I've
get a
heard about
crypto-
that.
It all comes back down to that building that really strong community and working with other people. Yeah, just like we're doing right here, right now, working with other people, building that strong community.
But yeah, and Curious Life is in the chat, and he makes a good point. He says there is no such thing as freedom of speech or any rights. Rights are a hoax. Legally speaking, the Bill of Rights is a bill of claims against us. Legalese doublespeak is powerful. Yeah, unfortunately, he's very right about that. So,
Absolutely. You have to agree to the terms of their little Grabbler contracts.
yeah, no kidding. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on with this. I'm going to do just a couple more of these guys, and then we're going to wind up because we're getting into 2.5 hours into the show here. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I kind of like doing these things. They're fun to go over these videos like this. So let's continue on.
No testing of the ISS, fully assembled in a warehouse where teams of engineers could test everything, especially these unknown seals and valves that can last 20 years in an extreme environment. Normally, that would raise some eyebrows, but it's okay because astronauts are really smart and can just plug holes with their thumbs. That's some good old NASA ingenuity there. So, all of you engineers out there, you don't actually need to test your advanced aircraft as long as they go to space, as proven by NASA again and again. And if you ever spring a leak in a spaceship, you can always use your fingers to plug up any holes because the unbelievably powerful vacuum of space isn't really that dangerous after all. Discovery number 17. Airplanes automatically account.
Yeah, that one's a good one. I mean, when they came out talking about that they had that leak that had been going on all that time for months, actually, right? Been going on and going on and going on, and that they just decided to plug it with their finger. First of all, if there would have been a leak like that, it wouldn't have stayed a small leak. It would have literally ripped the side of the space station off. They try and really downplay how powerful the vacuum is, especially when you're talking about a 14.7 psi pressurized atmosphere against a 10 to the negative 17 torr vacuum. I mean, you think that this implosion of the railroad car was violent? That's nothing, guys. That pressure differential wasn't even remotely close to that is said to be in space. So it's just preposterous that they can make those claims that they can just stick their finger in it and that's going to be just fine. I would venture to say, in fact, I would bet the farm on it. They couldn't do that if an airliner had a hole that got poked into the fuselage. If you stuck your finger in that, it would pull your finger and it would blow you right out the side of that little hole, making the hole or bigger as commensurately needed. It's just preposterous that they say you can plug it with your fingers. How ridiculous. Let's continue on.
For curvature. I find this flat Earth discovery fascinating. Regardless of speed or altitude, airplanes automatically adjust for the curvature of the Earth. 8 inches per mile squared, not a problem for any aircraft. These jets are automatically adjusting for the curvature every second. As another example, the SR-71 can fly at 2,193 miles per hour. That's 183 miles in just 5 minutes of flight. That would mean a curvature drop of approximately 22,000 feet in just 5 minutes of flight. Fortunately, gravity now has the property of making it so that the SR-71 nose continually dips downward to keep the SR-71 at the same altitude.
Even though it's pointed up the whole
We'd
time.
never know of this almost magical gravity property, but for those flat earthers raising all of those questions. Discovery number 18. Satellite balloons exist and are used often. Before Flat Earth, I never heard about NASA's repeated use of these high-altitude balloons for all types of purposes. These balloons can carry several tons of space equipment. This crashing satellite dangling from a balloon even included NASA telescopes. Apparently, all space agencies and many large corporations use these satellite balloons for purposes that we thought were limited to just space. Or maybe they just define space to include high-altitude balloons. Now that I mention it, I'm actually not sure why outer space satellites would even exist since these balloons are much cheaper. But I'm sure NASA has some reason, probably to use up that $62 million per day budget. Regardless, we know that we cannot doubt the existence of the 19,287 satellites in space. But thanks to Flat Earth, now I can cheer every time NASA launches a new space balloon.
Okay. And it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. It's crazy. But, you know, again, guys, these are just some of the points, you know, and Ben does such a great job of laying these things out. Obviously, I think there's probably another 10 or more better to go, and maybe I'll split those up and cover them on another show. I don't want to, you know, wind up doing the whole video here, but it has been fun doing this. But, you know, it gives you an idea of how much incredible evidence there is for the flat Earth, and how much backpedaling and reverse engineering and making up fairy tale stories and impossible phenomenon that the globe believers have to, you know, navigate through. It's just simply beyond belief. And, you know, that's why I said, if you have actually looked at this, especially if you've been following flat Earth for a while and you can't see any of this and you are still in complete denial, then you are either one of the dumbest people on Earth or suffering from cognitive dissonance on a level never before known to man, or you are suffering Dunning-Kruger on a level never known to man, or you're a paid agent. You know, I don't know which one it is, but you know, if you're going to be honest about it here, come on, guys, let's let's be honest about it, because there's just too many anomalies here that you cannot just explain away like it's nothing. So anyway, crazy. So any other comments anybody has on that? Now, John, you sent over a video that you wanted to say something about. Let's see, where was that? This one, the moon phase demo?
Yeah, sure. And your timing couldn't be worse, because I'm actually walking home right now from Burger King. I was leeching off of their Wi-Fi for the show, but I do have some data. I'm walking right now, but yeah, it's a real short little 3 or 4 minute video just discussing how a lot of times the phases of the moon indicate that the moon is, well, according to the Ball Earth standard model, the moon is visible when it should be like hundreds of thousands of miles beneath your feet, like through the Earth, on the other side of the Earth, in space. So yeah, we can talk about that. Sure.
Do you want me to go ahead and play that video while you're walking, and then you can comment afterwards, or how do you want to do this? Are you there, John?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you want me to play it?
Sure, that'd be fine.
Okay, so let me do a Chrome tab. That one, share audio and share. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play this video, 4 minutes, and let's hit it. Here we go. Oops, let me unmute it. Here we go.
Okay, so if the X on this softball represents an observer on the Earth, and the camera here that we're looking through represents, say, the moon. If the Earth is spinning like so,
John, are you hearing me?
I am hearing you.
Oh, okay, you might want to hit your mute because the wind is completely taking out the audio on the sound.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but I can't see my screen to mute. Hang on, I'm about to get in a shadow.
You can
Sorry.
do it for him, Bob, I think.
Oh,
wait, hang
that's
on.
right.
I got it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot I could do it too. My bad. All right, let's continue on.
and once the X disappears past that terminator line, on the other side of the ball there, then since we observers on the moon here on the camera can't see the X, I would say that it's not a huge leap to assert that the observer on the little X on the ball Earth can't see the moon, right? And so this applies itself to the observation of the moon being in the wrong place according to the ball Earth theory. So basically the argument that the Globers have against this point is the axial tilt, right? As well as the moon's 5-degree offset to the ecliptic plane. And what I'm saying is that that really doesn't affect this much. I'll put up a couple of graphics to show what I mean, but essentially the argument that the moon is visible when it shouldn't be visible, according to the ball Earth theory, and again, that argument is the axial tilt, which is 23.4 degrees off of perfect perpendicular to the ecliptic plane, as well as the moon's 5-degree offset to that same ecliptic plane. It doesn't resolve this. Once this X, once the observer on the ball Earth passes that terminator line, it doesn't matter how high you put the moon or how much really you tilt this ball, that X isn't visible, and so the moon wouldn't be visible to the observer at X. Okay, so hopefully that clears that up. But it's really very simple. The moon's phases are a perfect indicator of where the moon should be according to the ball Earth theory. And I'm sorry, but once this X goes beyond the terminator line, it really doesn't matter how much you tilt this doggone thing. You're not going to be able to see the moon once you get past the night side. And so, this is just a huge problem for the ball Earth theory, and I have yet to find a solid argument against it. And again, the main argument that they have is the 23.4 degree offset to the ecliptic plane of the Earth, so that's the axial tilt, and the 5-degree plus or minus offset of the moon. So, even if you, for argument's sake, say that the moon is at its peak northing of the ecliptic plane, and let's say that the 23.4 degree axial tilt is at its peak, to lend itself towards their argument, it doesn't get it, man. It just doesn't solve this problem. Frankly, when the moon is full, it should be 90 degrees opposite the sun, according to an observer on the Earth. When the moon is just a new moon, like a slight crescent moon, say 5 or 6% crescent moon, it should be more or less aligned to the sun, according to an observer on the Earth. And when we see full moons during broad daylight or crescent moons in the middle of the night, these are really excellent observations that do not lend themselves whatsoever and, in fact, debunk the ball Earth theory. Yeah. Hey.
Bob? Oh.
Hello.
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 Don't hear Bob.
Yeah, we're not hearing you, Bob, if you can hear me.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Can, yeah.
Okay, I'm having some problems with my switch apparently in my headset, but sorry about that. Okay, so go ahead and make your commentary on the video.
Okay, yeah, and it looks like my mic is unmuted. There's a delay in between the time where I unmute myself and the indicator changes, and so like I'll go to unmute myself, and because it doesn't indicate it, I'll remute myself because it's just whatever. But looks like we're good. So yeah, but that's that's something that I really want to get out there because I think it's important, and I think that it's one of those standalone pieces of evidence that anyone can verify, and the arguments against it are pretty silly. But yeah, anyway, I think I pretty much said it all in that little short video, but maybe you guys want to pass that one around a bit. I'm a bit winded because I just walked my dog home from the store and got plugged in. My phone was going to die, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Okay.
No, I thought it was a great video and it made a lot of sense. And there's just so many things like that. Just like being able to see Venus, and it's so brightly lit. And the crazy thing about it is Venus, in order to even be able to see it, first of all, it would have to be nighttime for us, which means we're pointed away from Venus and the sun. And then Venus would have to be on the other side of the sun, right? Being lit so that we could then see it. And so we've got these two angles that are almost impossible, and yet we have no problem seeing Venus at almost any point in time. So that's one thing that's always bugged me. And there's a lot of those anomalies like that that just don't make any sense. Now, some people say, you know, I know Mike Cavanaugh has said several times that the geometry does work out, but you know, like you just explained it there, it's like I just don't see it. So hard to say. What do you guys think? Okay. Well,
crickets. I guess it's all like perfectly explained.
What are we talking? So we're talking about observations of the moon from different parts of the Earth, and if you project that into the ball, they wouldn't even be possible. For example,
yeah, you wouldn't be able to see it because the convexity of terra firma would physically obstruct your view. I'm assuming that they would just say that, you know, this gravity well of bendy concepts makes light bend perfectly so that we see it over on the other side. I don't know what else I could say.
Yeah, I remember the early video from, I guess it was a German researcher who was looking at a sounding rocket video that was launched in Arizona, and he could spot the moon, and it was supposed to be over Australia. So it's quite similar to I guess that would be an example of a kind of sighting like this, where the moon is visible, but that would be from high altitude.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the best way to explain it is, so the moon's phase should be an indicator of the moon's position relative to the Earth and the sun. And I said in the video, I said it wrong. I said the full moon is 90 degrees opposite the sun. What I meant to say is the full moon should be 180 degrees opposite the sun, according to an observer on Earth. And the crescent moon, or like the new or no moon phases, should be more or less aligned to the sun, so on the same side of the Earth as the sun, so like on the day side. And you know, growing up, I remember countless times seeing really slight, you know, I'd call them fingernail moons or crescent moons when I was a kid, in the middle of the night, or brightly lit, nearly full moons in broad daylight. And again, by the way, it doesn't have to be 100% full. It could be 95% or 92% full. Mm-hmm. When you see the mostly full moon on the day side of the Earth, well after sunrise or well before sunset, those observations are just simply incompatible with the standard model. There's no room for it. And
yeah, I have it from like the middle of the day here, just recently, full moon in the sky. I have a bunch of pictures. We were out in the park. And it was right there, fully lit in the middle of the day. Happens all the time. Yeah.
Happens all the time. That's right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And the arguments that they have against it are basically, so in the standard model, the full moon, or I'm sorry, the moon's orbital path is about 5 degrees offset from the ecliptic plane. And of course, we know that the Earth's axial tilt is about 23.4 degrees tilted from the ecliptic plane. So there are certain scenarios where the tilt of the Earth and the moon's orbital offset would lend itself towards, you know, viewing the moon on the other side of the Earth, or at least that's what they say. And my response to that would be maybe from the Arctic Circle, right? But when you're talking about, and I think I did a pretty good job explaining it with the softball there, but it doesn't get it. It doesn't solve the problem. And in fact, even if it did, you'd be looking at the moon over the north side, like through where the axis of the Earth is, not on its regular east to west path where it normally rises and sets. And so, you know, it's a big fat problem for the ball. Yet another one of those. And I just thought I'd bring that up because it's an important point.
Yep, I completely agree. And yeah, it's well taken. And you know, like I said, there's a million of these, and that's what we do. That's why we keep covering them. And you know, we've covered, I think, just about every single aspect of this over the past 5 years. But it's amazing, you know, lots of people, so many people are coming into Flat Earth that have not seen our work, you know, going back 5 years. And that's why I think it's important to kind of bring up and, you know, not only play some of our old episodes, which I think is a good thing, but also to, you know, recover these things, you know, with some of the original presenters, which I think is really great. And that's going to be, you know, part of the game plan going forward. It may seem like a redundancy to some degree, and to some degree it is, but there is a lot of information about flat Earth, not just a few specific, house cleaning items that we can talk about. And it really, I think that the more people are aware of all these different arguments, the more powerful they will become in being able to debate them. So I just think it's a good thing, and everybody in the community is doing a really good job, I think, of carrying their weight and kind of getting the message out there. But I'm definitely looking to expand the message that Globebusters is putting out, and so that's why we're going to be making some fairly radical changes to our format come after the end of the month. So there you have it. So all right, guys. I am going to go ahead and wrap up the show, but before I do that, one thing that I do want to say, and I said it earlier, is Iron Realm Media is on a strike. So if you guys would subscribe to their Iron Realm Media podcast channel, that's their backup channel, and that is where they're doing their shows from. Josh and Walt and all the guys over there in Iron Realm, Zach, everybody, would be very glad if you did that. They've been having some really great guests lately and some good shows, and I think you'd be happy if you gave them a sub, and at least that way you'll be able to hear from them until May when they get their channel back. So that'll be cool for it. Perfect. So, all right. So I guess, John, we will, since you're the guest of honor, let's start with you. And you want to give us an idea of what you got coming up, what you're going to be doing over the next, whenever.
Sure. Yeah, I am working on wrapping up a video that is sort of, well, maybe not answering the question, but asking a question and posing some potential answers in terms of who they are. Those guys who are always up to no good, but we never seem to address who exactly they are. Yeah, those guys. So that's one thing I've got almost finished, and definitely check out the channel, TheMorgile, because I've got videos up that have been up for quite some time, and it's pretty seldom that I put up a video that gets more than 2,000 or 3,000 views anymore, like ever. I remember back in the good old days when I had just a few thousand subscribers, I could put a video up and get 20,000 hits on it in a day or two, and now it seems like with years of experience under my belt, and I think the quality of my videos certainly hasn't suffered any worse than they used to. So maybe the quality has perhaps intensified a bit. It's just very difficult to get views on videos anymore on YouTube. So I did get that community guideline strike recently, so I'm not able to post. I thought it said for a week, but maybe it said a month. I'll have to just double check and make sure. So I will, for the time being, be posting to my backup channel, which is simply TheMorgile 2. So definitely give that one a look for upcoming content in the very near future. But once I get back able to post on the main channel, I'll be posting everything up on TheMorgile. Also on BitChute, it's going to be TheMorgile. And I'm still available on Patreon, PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. All the keyword is going to be TheMorgile. So keep trying to keep it simple in that realm. But yeah, thanks so much, you guys, for having me. It was good to be back on, and I'll look forward to doing many more shows if you'll have me in the future, for sure.
Absolutely, John. We're very happy to have you, and glad you could come on today. And definitely, I'd love to have you on again in the future and share a lot of your work with us, because it really is good. You are definitely one of Flat Earth's OGs, and you still have great material and a lot to donate to the community, I think. So that's awesome. So, all right. So, Kyle, let's go around and come around to you. And why don't you give us an idea what you got coming up, sir?
All right. Well, this next week, I'm doing my next addition to Modern Earth Science Destroyed. We're talking about satellites. So I've got the next 3 pages. I've sent that out to you already, but I can send you another copy if you need it. But I've got the next 3 pages out that I'm going to be discussing anyway. And that's all about satellites. So if you have anything you'd like to contribute to that, I'd be more than happy to share it. And then the week after that, I'm going to be doing the top 10 female Flat Earth channels. And so if you are aware of any major female Flat Earth channels that stand out to you, I'm trying to get what I can to put into that. So I really look forward to those 2.
All right, beautiful. That sounds good. And yeah, I'll definitely be contributing some stuff on the satellites, because like I said, that kind of used to be my bailiwick, and it amazes me, but it did. So I definitely have some input on it that I'll be getting over to you.
I'll greatly appreciate that.
Awesome. All right. So, Rodrigo, let's spin around to you. And what do you got coming up, sir?
No, just keeping up with some of my revision of my work with in the past, I don't know, few years. And yeah, continue with that. Talking about, I was making the treatment protocols for spacecraft, the diagnostics protocol as well, the idea, how do you figure it out, that as a kind of tongue-in-cheek sort of idea, but also serious, and just trying to model all the things that I've collected and new stuff as well. Some things coming up. I had quite a few streams this week. Just trying to relax at night and come out and talk to people and look at some stuff, and it's been good. And thank you for having me again. And yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. Sounds good. And I will be in touch, because I'm going to be kind of working out, who wants to be on what shows, and we're going to be alternating around staff on shows, and anyway, I'll be in touch with you guys and let you know about where we're going with that. So very cool. All right, so let's bring it around to Austin Whitsitt with WitsitGetsIt out there in the tour bus. Tell us what's coming up in the plans for you, Austin, and yeah, and as I said, if I can make something happen either on Globebusters 2 or the third Globebusters channel for you to stream, we can probably make that happen for you as well.
Sweet, that would be awesome, bro. That would be perfect, actually. But it's certainly up to you. I'm going to be more tactical with what I say and what I show, certainly on someone else's channel, But
yeah, of course,
yeah. So we're in
Austin. Of course, if you'd like to come and yap in my channel anytime you want, whatever you want to say, yarn and yap. I'll be happy to have you.
Sweet, bro. I'm down.
Do whatever you like. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever I can do to get the word out, man, because it's like almost impossible right now. So. But yeah, we're in Panama City Beach, and then we'll probably head towards Pensacola, the New Orleans area, kick it with Rose 777, who's a legend. If anyone here hasn't subbed to her, y'all are tripping. And then we'll go through to Texas, Houston, Dallas, Austin, maybe see what's up with InfoWars. And then we'll chill with Alex Stein in Texas, Conspiracy Castle. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff that's coming. That should be cool. We do have a bit of a hiccup with the RV right now, or you're going to have to replace the alternator, we think, and hopefully that's it. It's going to be a few $100. If anybody does support the tour and likes what we're doing, feel free to help some brothers out if you feel led to. If you don't, it's cool. But if you want to shoot a donation to help with expenses like that, I would encourage you to strictly send them to Witsit at protonmail.com for PayPal and $WitsitGetsIt on Cash App. But we're not really going to trip about that. We know that the community will rally around us. So that's pretty much the updates there. And then I just go show love to Miggy. Either way, what Miggy does, he streams 24/7 for our Discord, like constantly. He's putting in work for Flat Earth, so we should show him love and get him to him 1,000 regardless. I think that would be cool. And if I can have a few backup avenues, that's probably ideal, because I just want to beat them at their own game, and now I refuse to not do so. So that's basically my monologue, but I'll be on D Live tonight. So until I figure out a scenario where I can shoot through YouTube too, I will simultaneously be live streaming through D Live and Twitch and maybe Facebook or something. But so WitsitGetsIt on D Live is the main way to keep up with the content right now. I can't do anything on my YouTube. I can't even upload edited videos. So there you go. That's about it. And yeah, much love to everyone that supports.
All right, cool. And now I'll put your links to support the tour in the show notes of this show, and hopefully you can get you some donations out there. That'd be awesome.
Sweet, thank you, bro.
All right, and last but certainly not least, Jeran from Jeranism. What do you got coming up, sir?
Not a lot, Bob. It's the same old stuff, but it was great having Jon back. Awesome. It kind of brings back some great memories of some great Globebuster shows. So it's good that we got to talk to him today, and hopefully we see him more often. And yeah, I've just been busy with consultations, so lots of those still scheduled. So if anybody's interested in that, of course, head to my website or jeranism.com/crypto. And that's what I'm figuring out ways to battle censorship like everybody else. So I got some good ideas. I'm going to be kind of reworking my weekly schedule, kind of like what Bob's doing, to a more structured thing. And yeah, there'll just be a lot of good things coming. So I'm very excited. Big changes coming for, you know, my channel as well. So today is the first Sunday of the month. So we do have our monthly patrons only hangout stream after this in about 30 minutes or so. So I hope that I see all my patrons there. Had a huge increase in patrons this month. So I'm excited to see how many people will be there. And if you're not a patron, you can sign up patreon.com/Jeranism. You'll get immediate access and the link and everything. And the link has already been sent to patrons, and I'll be putting the link to the show in the patrons only Telegram right after this show. And we'll see you guys shortly.
All right, beautiful. Okay, guys. Well, I will call that a show then. And thanks everybody for coming and seeing the show today. And looking forward to seeing everybody. And again, you know, if you can make it out to South Carolina on the 26th and 27th, you won't regret it. It'll be a lot of fun, mask-free fun, and lots of people here. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing everybody. I think it's going to be a blast. So we will see everybody then. Until then, be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind, because there is truth inside. Peace out, everybody. See you later.
Peace.